Smart Mark Video would like to welcome John Zandig as part of their Best on the Indie series. How did you get interested in pro wrestling growing up?
Channel 29, man. 29, which is, we used to call it Channel 29 Wrestling, which was...
PHL.
Which was WWF, or WWW way back in the day. And that's what we used to do, you know. When I was in the backyard, these backyard wrestlers nowadays, we weren't backyard wrestlers. We played Channel 29 Wrestling, you know. And I was always into it since I was a little kid. Right on into school, I was suplexing people and doing moves on people in the gym and everything from grade school on up to junior high school. I mean, so I was always into it. And I was into, I guess, the WWE, which is, you know, really is what got me hooked.
Who were some of your favorite wrestlers growing up?
I guess Ivan Putski, Bruno. Good Christ, I even liked Dominic DeNucci back in the day. I remember, you know, the Rock's dad, the original Rock, Rocky Johnson, and Tony Atlas. I remember they were like a tag team. That's funny. I remember he used to do a little shuffle. He used to dance. I don't really know who else. Back, you know, in the old days, it would be those guys. I'm a fan of Shawn Michaels. I think Shawn Michaels is I think he's a great talent. I think he's knows how to make the other guy look just as good as he looks. Big fan of the Ultimate Warrior. Anybody that knows me from way back in the day. Ultimate Warrior had more charisma than anybody I know. If you could take Shawn Michaels' talent and put it inside of the Ultimate Warrior, I think those two together would be probably the best wrestler in the world, in my opinion.
What was the first event you ever went to? Do you remember?
Well, I never went to no indies. I didn't know what the hell indie wrestling even was. I don't remember the firsts, but I will say I remember being at the Civic Center in Philly, and I'll tell you the biggest guys I've ever seen in my life, going off your question a little bit, was the Warlord and the Barbarian. And I remember thinking, oh my God. And I was also a Road Warrior fan back in the day. And when I seen them guys, they just made the Road Warriors look small. And that was way back at the Civic Center. At the Spectrum, I can remember taking my son Johnny, who is now 28 years old. He must have been 4 or 5 years old, and I painted him up like the Ultimate Warrior, and it was, I don't remember what the show was or what it was called or anything, but the Warrior, I believe he teamed with the Road Warriors, and I think they might have been working Demolition at that time. I think that's what it was. And my son, we got front row tickets. I paid about $120 a piece for these front row seats. Had the makeup on my son, and my son was a fan of Bret Hart. Not a fan of Bret Hart. No offense, Bret. And he had me draw a picture. Back in the day, I used to be a pretty good drawer. And I drew a picture of Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and it was all in pink and black and all that. And that's back when Bret was giving away the sunglasses. And my son's up there with the makeup on, looking like the Ultimate Warrior, and he's holding up the Bret Hart and Anvil sign, like begging for the glasses. And here comes Bret Hart. He comes walking over, looks at my son. He's like ready to give him the glasses, and he turns away and gives them to the kid right next to him. I was like, "You son of a bitch!" I think the Warrior paint blew that one. But there are a couple standout. There are a couple standout things I remember. The Warrior with the Road Warriors and the one show with when I seen the Warlord and Barbarian. And it was a WrestleMania, I believe. Was there a WrestleMania in Atlantic City? Was one of them in Atlantic City?
Yeah.
I did go to one of those way in the beginning, like maybe, I don't know if it's 1, 2, I don't know what it was.
It was like 2 or 3, 2 or 4, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I went to that. But not really a whole lot. Didn't go to a whole lot. It was mostly, we were poor growing up, you know what I mean? I was in the poorest house on the block, so we didn't have much money to do anything.
What was it like growing up for you? Like, I know you have different stories. Like,
growing up for me, being poor and it was rough. I was always out trying to make a buck, I guess. wound up, well, here's one. I was a bouncer in a bar when I was 15 years old. $20 a night and all I could drink. 15 years old. I thought I was cool. I was I was a big man, I guess. I thought I was anyway back then, all grown up. Probably wasn't the best thing for me because I spent a lot of years wasting time in that very bar. So, as far as my childhood goes, I didn't have a whole lot of a childhood. It was I grew up really fast. Like I said, very poor. We didn't have much money. Our electric was shut off just as much as it was on. We were lucky. Color TVs out the door. We had black and white TV when everybody else had remotes and color, remote controls and color TV. We were still watching black and white. But, we did what we had to do. My parents split up when I was 14 years old. Mom said, you're going with me. Dad said, you're going with me. I said, fuck both of you, I'm going on my own. Stayed with friends here and there a couple times, and I got my first apartment when I was 15 years old. Wasn't too long after that. A couple years later, I had my first son. And that would be Johnny. Like I said, he's 28 years old now. And I don't know. Time goes on. Time goes on. Did a lot of fighting when I was young. Never looked for fights. Fights always looked for me. I could be standing in a bar. I could be standing in a skating rink. I could be standing in a mall. It doesn't matter. And somebody would come up and want to bump into me or make a sarcastic remark. It just seemed like for some reason, I don't know if I had that look on my face or what, but somebody would always want to come give me a nudge. And let me tell you something, that's the worst fucking thing you could do. Don't piss me off. Didn't lose many fights, I'll tell you that. And any time I did lose, there was always more than one swinging hands at me. Want some more of that? You guys like the fighting stories or
There's so many.
The drinking stories?
Give us at least one. Was there one that you told me once? I can't even remember all the parts of it. Something they were chasing you, train tracks. It was like a ridiculous, crazy story. I mean, you have so many.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. There is so many. Let me tell you a couple funny ones quick, I guess. I don't know. This really wasn't a fighting story. This is a funny story, and I think you like it. A friend of mine's girlfriend was cheating on him, and supposedly moved in with this other guy that we knew. And my buddy heard that he was over there, and there was all these people, so he came up and got me and some of my friends together. And I was always like the leader. I always had to be the one gung-ho, the first one in there, I was the first one friends would come after if they were in trouble. But we go to this place, and we're hearing voices, and we're drinking, of course. Back in my younger days, way too many Budweisers. We're listening in the door, then we're knocking on the door, and nobody's answering, but we're hearing voices in there, and we're screaming, telling them, open the effing door, and they ain't opening the door. So, I don't know. Me, like I said, I'm always the first one in. I said, get out of the way. So I back up down this hallway. It's like an apartment building. I back up down the hallway, and I just run straight at this fucking door. Splinters every fucking way. It was like a cartoon. You seen my body shape went right through this freaking door, and we get inside, and the fucking TV was on. Nobody was even in there. So we're busting in there, thinking, we'll kick somebody's ass, finding my buddy's girl, in there with this dude. There was nobody in there. It was a friggin' TV the whole freaking time. So that made us feel pretty fucking stupid. So it wasn't a waste of time. We unloaded their freezer. We took all their fucking food with us. We took all their booze out of the refrigerator. And at the time, my buddy was just out of the Navy, and his girl was there because he found some of her stuff, and he found his Navy hat, one of them goofy Cracker Jack hats, and inside of them was his name. And when we left, he took the hat and he flipped it upside down so his name was showing, left it sitting on the kitchen table. And, just basically left a mark, like, yeah, I was here, motherfucker, you know what I mean, I'll be back. And we just left, went home, we made some steaks, drank the dude's beer, and, there was, never heard anything else about it, but it was definitely You had to see it. You seen that fucking door? And I'm telling you, this was 30-something years ago. It's still it's funny as hell. One other little fighting story. It was cold. It was winter, and we heard this party was going on at this apartment. And we go up to this apartment. We don't even know these people. Me and a few of my buddies go walking in, and they say, they're like, "What's up?" I said, "We're here to party." "Well, who are you?" "What's the difference? It's cold out. We're here to party." Well, we sat down, and we grabbed beers, and we sat there and we started drinking. And all these people, they're like looking at us, like who the fuck are these guys? And we're just drinking the beers. And one tough guy comes up, and he says to me, he's got these fucking big silver rings on and his tattoos and everything. And he says, "You guys got to go." And I said, "Motherfuck you, motherfucker." I said, "It's cold outside. It was cold. It was winter." I said, "I ain't going nowhere." I said, "I'm staying right here. It's nice and fucking warm." Well, the fucking idiot went to grab my fucking shirt, which was stupid. He grabbed my arm. Well, when he grabbed my arm, I jumped the fuck up. I cracked him, and I fucking grabbed him by the back of his neck and the fucking seat of his pants. And the bad thing was, they lived on the second fucking floor. I threw him right through the fucking sliding door, fucking right off the fucking balcony. That motherfucker hit the fucking ground outside. I'm sure we've seen bigger bumps in CZW, but it was nasty. But boy, did I got fucking attacked from behind. This big burly biker bearded motherfucker grabbed me from behind and started choking the shit out of me. I'm like, and the guys I was with, I'll be honest, one of them fucking got out of there when the shit started getting ugly, and another one was like holding on to one person and trying to fight, and I got this biker, this big biker dude's got his arms wrapped around me, choking my friggin' neck, and I'm trying to punch him and get on. I could not get this dude off. I'm like, my breath, I'm losing my breath. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And anyway, I'm trying to get out. I'm like, this motherfucker. So finally, somehow or other, I reach down and I get a hold of the friggin' coffee table leg, and I snap the coffee table leg off. What? I hit that motherfucker in the head. He's still choking. I hit him again. He's still choking. I hit that guy about 5 times in the head with this fucking thing. Finally, I was able to get him over by the steps. Now, this dude, I fucking hit him about 5 times, gave him the throw all the way down the steps. Boom, 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 all the way down to the fucking bottom of the steps. Left him laying, left the other fucking guy laying, went in their refrigerator. I said, "Get their fucking beer, get their food." We fucking took their food, took their beer, walked the fuck out, stepped right over the guy on the steps, walked outside, kicked the guy, fucking laying on the ground. I threw up the balcony. We left fucking and went right up the street, I'll be honest, to another apartment right up the street, and went in, took some food, took the beer, and just kept right on doing what we do. The moral of the story, most of my stories is I walked and talked and did exactly what I wanted to do. And a lot of times we didn't mean any harm, you know what I mean? We went there, we just wanted some beers, and you know, and if they got the balls to start, you know, or come up and put their hands on me, then they got to suffer the consequences. But all in all, we were really just fun guys, you know what I mean? Me and most of my buddies. Just don't fuck with us.
Growing up, you said your family life was kind of like split. You went out on your own. Known you from the promoter side. Do you think that's always why you acted like the father figure? You know what I mean? Like jumping ahead a little bit, just like some insight. Like you always gave a lot of people, you know what I mean, the third, fourth chance. You know.
I think from where I come from,
Mm-hmm.
I think I know where other people come from. I think not having much as a kid. I'm not going to say my father wasn't around, because my dad was always there. If I needed him, he would have been there. It wasn't that way. My father taught me respect, you know, taught me manners. He taught me everything I needed to know before I left it at a young age. So there's a lot of people out there that didn't have a father in their life like me, you know what I mean? And never really got taught respect and these kinds of things, and weren't taught the right things to do, or the right ways to do them, or the right way to talk to somebody, or you know, anything. Just weren't like guided and coached in life. You got to have a little something behind you before you branch out. And with the wrestling, like you're saying, like a father figure type of thing, bringing people back. I think I think I was kind of a father figure to some people. You know, a lot of the different the guys over the years. You know, a lot of them didn't have the guidance that they needed, and I could tell that. And a lot of them came to me for guidance, which I liked. I enjoy helping guys out. They don't call up and say, "Hey, who am I working tomorrow?" You know, they may call up and say, "Yo, boss, I got this. You know, I got a problem. You know, my mom and dad are fighting and they're talking about a divorce, and I really don't know how to handle this. What should I do? And I would give them my 2 cents. And I'm not going to go into the
Right.
what I
No,
would say
no,
to
no.
them, but I would give them my opinion, and they respect the opinion, and that's good, and that makes me feel good. I mean, that's some stuff like that to me there's memories of that is more important memories of that kind of thing than what wrestling. Who did you wrestle? Who was your best match ever? Or whatever. Those kind of things. They really stick, tight in the heart. And I can't think of. I'm trying to think of somebody off the. Well, Chris Cash. Chris Cash was God rest his soul, but he was a person like that. He had a mother and father. They were there, but he didn't get along. He didn't get along with his parents, and he confided in me a lot of times. A lot of times he would come to me with with problems and ask me my opinion. And at one point, he lived in a rental property that I had, and it was cheap for him to live there, and part of it was me helping him get through life. You know what I mean? I wish his life would have lasted a little bit longer, but I'll never forget him, and I'll never forget the little talks that we've had, and little father-son talks. He was a good kid, and I'll never forget him. Here's one, and people probably figure I hate this motherfucker. He is a bit weird, a bit of a pervert. That fucking kid Bar, Z-Bar, whatever he calls himself. This is something I'm really proud of. Years ago, he was coming over from Philly to the wrestling school in Mantua, and he wanted to be a wrestler in the worst way. He was training over there in some shithole as usual, and then he came over here and wanted to be part of CZW. And I started letting him train, and he was a kid with no money. But like me, I had no money, growing up, and I realized the dream, and and let him train. I never charged him, and then all of a sudden he started slipping in school, and he started talking he was going to fail school, or he was going to drop out of school, he was going to quit. And Bar, if you ever see this, I know you'll remember it. I told you, motherfucker, everybody in this fucking school, everybody that wrestles for CZW graduated high school. And if you don't graduate fucking high school, you're out of here. And Bar graduated fucking high school. And I don't have more than a 9th grade education. But I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of you for fucking graduating high school, you fucking prick. That's one of those little stories, you know what I mean? But
Right.
I'll never forget that. I feel good to have been able to give that kid a little nudge. And maybe it was CZW. It wasn't John. You know what I mean? It was the whole thing. He wanted to be CZW. He wanted to be part of this great thing. And back then it was just a little great thing, But he's seen something, and he wanted to be part of it. And he graduated high school, just to be part of CZW. And I'm glad to have and proud to have been able to help him along with that. So that's another one of those little fatherly type of things. I don't know what else.
We can get into some more of the stories and the guys as we go along. So you're interested in wrestling. You're out on your own. Single father at this point. When do you say, okay, this is what I'm going to do? As either a hobby, a profession. When do you make that decision in your life that this is something for me?
Well, it's something I always wanted to do.
Right.
Although my grandmother always said, Johnny, I'll never see you out there being one of those idiots jumping around like that in your underwear in the wrestling ring. Well, Grandma wound up doing it. And another one, God rest her soul, she never got to see me in the ring. That's a big disappointment for me. She never actually did get to see me to do, Icon or Zandig or, John the promoter or whatever. She's never got to see me do anything in the wrestling ring. I wish she would have. But the hardest thing with me with wrestling, I never followed indie wrestling. I didn't really know what it was. The internet wasn't big. I still don't go on the internet. I'm almost computer illiterate besides my iPhone. I just lost my train of thought here.
You were
What was I
talking
saying,
about
Mike?
the Indian wrestling. You weren't a big fan. You know what I mean? You didn't know
Right,
that.
right. So basically, like how I got into it or how it got started and when I made the decision is what I'm getting at. I didn't really know much, and there was like the only thing I knew from where I'm from in my area is this fucking jerk off Larry Sharp, which owned a place, and I guess he still does. I don't know. Last I heard, he was sweeping floors, but he might still a Monster Factory might still be open somewhere. And I went and talked to this Larry Sharp guy to train to be a wrestler. And I wanted to train to be a wrestler many times over, to be honest with you. But where I'm from, the only game in town was this Monster Factory thing with this fucking bleach blonde fucking dude that I would see out in bars friggin' falling off his friggin' bar stool ran the place. And it was always hard for me to, like, you know, go to do this.
Take that guy serious.
Because it was just, yeah, it really was. But eventually, it got to the point I said, you know what, I got to go. And I went to one of his training sessions, and when he was in Paulsboro in this little building, and there was three of us. It was me, this heavy-set dude, and a real little dude. And back then, I was jacked up pretty good. We went in, and I was glad, actually, I was third. You go in and you go through a series of different things they asked you to do to see if you're trainable. And I was third, so I got to watch the other two guys do their things, and whatever it was like they did wrong, I would listen to the criticism, so being third made it easy. And then when I did my thing, boom, perfect. Boom, perfect. Like, everything that I did, I felt was perfect, and it was. And not bragging, because I'm not perfect, but my my tryout was. Anyway, we go in the office afterwards, and you know, this one, his hands like out, you know what I mean, like, pay me. And he makes this comment, I don't see any, you know, Hulk Hogan overnight here. You guys all did about the same. And I'm like thinking to myself, are you fucking kidding me? We all did the same, dude. You don't have to pat me on the back, but don't tell me I did the same as these other two dudes, because let me tell you something, the other two dudes were bad. No offense, I don't even remember who the hell you were. But so another turnoff. Now I got this fucking drunk that I see out in bars, fucking, you know, telling me, you know, that I did just as bad as these other guys, basically. So it turned me off. So I was like, fuck it, I gave up again. And then I guess maybe a couple weeks goes by, a month or something, and all of a sudden I get a call. I hear Larry Sharp showed up in a gym where I was working out one day. And he goes, oh, that guy tried out. He goes, you know who he is? Can I get his phone number? And he wound up getting my number from the person working at the desk in the gym. And I get this call, and he says, hey, I seen you in the gym or something, you know, I know you want to work out. He said, you did really good. He goes, think you can come, you know, you want to come, you come give it a try or whatever. And again, I'm sour now. I'm hating it, you know, but I want to do it. So I didn't at first. I said, yeah, I'll let you know. And I backed off, and it took me a while longer. It just kept dragging and dragging. And finally, I don't know, one day I said, you know what? I got to do this. And I went to meet with this fucking guy. Now he's over in another place in Clementon, New Jersey, I think. And I sit down with him, and we make a deal. He wants X amount of money and all this. And I made a deal with him because he needed a bathroom done at his house. So I give the guy $1,500 cash, and I tell him I'll do his bathroom. And then I start my training. The fucking ring was broke. The fucking roof was leaking. Nobody showed up to unlock the place. I mean, there was a lot of problems with that. But I still went. I took my bumps. The ring was fucking hard as hell. I mean, it was really stiff. And trust me, I'm not a bitch. I could bump on the floor. But it was just ridiculous. I mean, he had a boxing ring, people over there trying to take bumps in. He did nothing but walk in the fucking door. When he would walk in, he wouldn't even have something nice to say to somebody. He'd walk by, and instead of saying, oh, that looked good, or spend 10 minutes and say it looked good, or walk by and say, oh, that fucking sucked. And then walk in his office, smoke a cigar, and fucking yell for people with his hand out to pay him for doing nothing. But anyway, I took what I could take from there. I watched some of the guys that were there that could do some things. Learned the basics, very basics, and got to the point I needed more, and I wanted my own place. And Larry actually had borrowed money from me several times to pay his rent during my training period. So I said to him, hey, Larry, he only was open 3 days a week. I said, how about if I pay the rent and let me use the building, and I want to incorporate weightlifting into the training. And I said, I want to have more training time for myself. I'm going to start training some other people. I said, you do your thing, and I'll do mine. I said, and I'll pay the rent. And We'll talk about it. We'll talk. This went on 3-4 months. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. We never talked about it. Finally, I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'll start my own thing. So that's how I got started on CZW, actually, after that.
Who was, do you remember anybody that was in your training with you?
Oh, God. Some kid striker. Who else was, Pat something? How about, what's his name's around? The kid with the patch on his eye? Patch. They call him? Yeah, Anthony. Yeah. I think, yeah, he was there. Actually, he might have came along after the train. Might have been just when I started working, you know what I mean? But I've worked out with Patch. I had some matches with him and, little small matches. Just missed the Giant, supposedly. Paul White, he was like just on the way out, kind of.
On the way out.
When I was on the way in. I don't really, I didn't really get friendly with too many of these guys. I really don't remember who the guys were training too much.
At this time, was he doing shows or the TV or what?
Yeah, he was doing shows. I don't think he used to have a Channel 5 gimmick or something years ago. I don't even think he had that at this time. But yeah, he was doing shows. He would usually bring somebody in, like a former name guy, or whatever, and then, I guess typical indie wrestling, I guess now, which I didn't know what it was back then. I'll be honest, I thought indie wrestling, I thought I was going to make $500 when I did a match, when I finally started wrestling. I didn't realize there was really no money in it. Although the least I ever made, I think with that, I think was about, my first match, I think I got about $90. But besides the $90, I did learn something real quick, and before it even started was gimmicks, sell your gimmicks. And the very first night I was in the ring at a Larry Sharp show, I had 100, I can't remember if I'd be lying, if it was 120 to 140 people came out to see me, not including the rest of the people in the audience, obviously, a lot of friends of mine. And I did my first match, and after I was done the match, I was up there doing the Polaroid snapshots, selling them for about $5 a piece. And I walked away with $500, that night, the very first night in the ring. So it was almost like my head was probably, I'm like, oh my God, you know what I mean? I'm a star, like the first time in the ring. And my friends, like I said, I had a lot of friends there, and they dwindle. They don't last long. They come at first, and then the next show there was 80, and then the second show, everybody was like, Larry, Icon's got to go on last. You can't put him on first because as soon as he's done, everybody gets up and leaves. But I did them indie matches there, and in some garages. Larry did some small shit in a little garage that he had. I'm not gonna say it was bad. I mean, because it's all experience. You know what I mean? You get out there and you do your thing, and you're learning. It's all a learning and process as you go along.
How did you come up with the gimmick, the Icon gimmick?
The Icon was kind of, obviously, it was a Warrior ripoff, I guess you could say.
Right.
The Warrior retired, and when the Warrior retired, I felt like there was still room for a Warrior, and I'll be honest, that's the way I felt. And at the time, superheroes were in, as far as I was concerned. The superhero thing's good. Little kids buy pictures and spend money, and mommies buy pictures and spend money and buy T-shirts if you got a good look. And that's kind of what I was going for. I was going for the little kids, and I was trying to look good and pretty with the muscles and the hair. I mean, Christ, I friggin' put, what do you call it?
Highlights.
Bleach. I highlighted my hair. I put beads in my hair. But I'll tell you, some people may say, oh, you fucking bitch, or, you fucking fag, or whatever. But you know what? It worked, because anywhere I went, I made money.
Right.
I didn't make big money off wrestling matches, but I got moms lining up in malls. I was nobody, and I was getting booked to go to the Danbury Mall in Connecticut. I'm John from New Jersey, I'm nobody, and I had people booking me to go do autograph signings. I was doing more autograph signings at one time than I was doing wrestling matches. Not that that's the smartest thing to do, guys, because you need your time in the ring. You need the experience. But I got in it older. it was about money with me at first. I knew I got in too old, and I had to do whatever I had to do and get my face out there however I could. But yeah, I would go out there and look pretty for the moms and make muscles for the little kids, and the moms would buy a T-shirt for the kids or a picture, and and that was how I was making money with with this wrestling business.
What were some of your favorite matches under the Icon gimmick?
Under the Icon gimmick, I can't even remember anything that was remotely anything great to me. I really can't. I did a match with that Brandy dude. What was
Tom Brandy?
Sal Sincere.
Sal
when he was
Sincere.
with Vince or something. I guess Vince got rid of him. I did a match with him. This was cool because it was in my hometown. So the last school I went to a junior high school, and my junior high school I went to, they had a show there. I think it was an NWA show. I'm pretty sure. And I worked Brandy there. And it was like, a lot of times with me, I was older, like I said, when I got into it. So I was like a grown man. I was a grown man in my teens. And it was like a lot of times with the indies, it was like I was out there with kids. It was almost like I was wrestling my son, and actually Brandy was probably the first like man, actually, you know what I mean? Because we're probably close to the same age, close to the same size. Not that the match was the greatest thing in the world, but it was good, and I remember it, and I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed doing it in front of like my hometown. It was good. I was much rather wrestle with Tom Brandy, than wrestle with one of these young kids that were out there. So that does stand out. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know that it was a great match, but it was cool.
Yes.
And you know what? I remember him talking to me during that match too. Like, had me down in the headlock, on the ground, and I was trying to get up too quick, and he's like, "Relax, brother. Take it easy. Wait for it." And I was young. I was new, just getting into it. And I'm like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" But I listened, and I laid there, and I waited, and then all of a sudden, you started hearing the fans, and this is when I really realized, because I didn't watch it for all that, and nobody teaches you that either. That only comes with in-ring experience, and I've passed that right on to many other people. So thanks, Tom, for that. But yeah, and then next thing you know, I start. He's like, "Now, come on." So now I'm, trying to get fired up, and I'm trying to get up. You know what I mean? And then he pulls the hair, and I'm back down again. He's like, "Relax," and then it's, bring it back. Then it's time, and you stay, and then you just bring it back again. So I'll never forget that either. That was something that actually I probably learned from him, and like I said, I've passed that kind of thing on. While I'm in the ring with other people.
Right.
I do the same thing. Relax, breathe.
How long was the Icon character? Did you do that for?
I don't even know when I really got started. Was it 96 when I actually had like a match, a first match?
That's what I was guesstimate about. So about 3 years.
I'm not sorry, I'm not big on dates. But it was somewhere in that area, 96, I guess. And I was Icon right on up until when I started CZW. Oh, and by the way, the Icon gimmick. Yeah, I was the original fucking Icon jerk-off. So all you motherfuckers out there, including the Rice Krispie fucking guy that thinks you're a fucking Icon, you got Hogan and fucking Piper and everybody fucking... That's what happened to the Icon. Everybody took the fucking word and ran with it. So I fucking... When I went from the Icon gimmick a couple, 3 years later, whatever it was, when I started CZW, I believe I started calling myself Zandig, the ultraviolet icon, or something of that. And that I changed the whole thing because of all these other people running with the word. Right. I even talked to, don't remember his name, heavyset guy down in WCW. Used to be a booker. You might remember his name. If you said it, I would know it. Spoke with him on the phone when I was the Icon about the Icon controversy, because everybody's calling themselves the Icon, and I told him I was the Icon already. I said, "Is there any way you can get me into this thing?" And I sent him a tape, and he did contact me back. I cannot remember his name, and he said that I had a good look, and they'd be interested in doing
Dusty
some
Rhodes?
stuff. No, it wasn't Dusty Rhodes. it was, you know, he wasn't a worker. He was behind the scenes. Heavy set guy, I can't remember his name. And he said, "You got a great look, and we could use you, and we could, you know, we could probably use you, but they wouldn't do anything with the icon gimmick."
Mm-hmm.
Well, once again, I get bitter. I was fucking sour. I said, "Well, then I don't want to fucking do nothing." So that was the end of that. And anyway, but I decided at that point, there's just everybody's a fucking icon. The icon word is just blown up everywhere, so I didn't want to do that anymore. And now I wanted to come up with something that nobody gave a fuck about, nobody was going to steal, nobody would want. And this is where Zandig came about. Means nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was writing down letters, Z's, X's, V's, things that you don't usually see in names. And no, it has nothing to do with fucking Danzig, because I didn't even know who the fuck Danzig was until after I did Zandig. And I got people say, "Oh, what's that, Danzig, but backwards?" I'm like, oh, fuck. It's just a word. It's just it means nothing, and I knew nobody else would want it because it meant nothing, you know. So that's where I came up with the Zandig thing. And I still Zandig, and you still hear the ultraviolet icon over the years and all that. And I am the original icon, so fuck all you motherfuckers.
But you mentioned Hulk Hogan there, who was the guy who actually gave you the idea for Combat Zone Wrestling, correct? It was a promo. I think he explained this to me once before. He was cutting some promo. He was like, you know, "I'm going to take you into the Combat Zone." In some promo, and you're like, that's it, Combat Zone. You know what I mean? That's where you came up with the whole name for the Combat Zone Wrestling.
Yeah. You gotta listen to everybody and anybody around you in the business, and anybody can come up with a good idea at any given day. And it's very possible the memory's not as good as it used to be, but if that's what Mike says, if I had that story with him, then I probably did hear something from him, and that clicked, and that's where I went with it.
You're doing some different independents. You come across, I'm sure, I say he's one of the last true, like, carny kind of like promoter scumbags, but original characters. Who I think in this area, he definitely had his touch on everything. Like Dennis Carluzzo, what was it like working for him?
Dennis Carluzzo is a fucking scumbag. Once again, God rest his soul. No offense, you know, I don't like talking about somebody who passed away, but I contacted Dennis when I first started. I was trying to get away from the whole Monster Factory thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would see these posters around that said NWA, and there was a phone number on there. And I called the phone number, and here it's this insurance guy, Dennis Carluzzo, right in my town where I live. I was like, holy shit, you know. And I'm at this point now, I'm starting to learn about indie wrestling. I'm hearing NWA, and I'm thinking, whoa, NWA, that's big. And I go to meet him at his office, and here he's an insurance salesman at the time. And I go in to meet him, and we talk. And when I first met him, it was I was like his best buddy. I think when he looked at me come walking in his office, I think he's seen fucking dollar signs, and he's thinking, oh, this is going to be the next big thing. And I've heard people tell me that Dennis said that about me as well. As long as things are going Dennis' way, and, you know, and if you can sell tickets or you can make him money, you know, everything's good. But Dennis don't give a fuck about nobody. Never fucking did. He's a huge mark. You know, just fucking, I don't know. He's just ridiculous. If I was sitting in Dennis's office, and I don't remember exactly, so you don't quote me on this, but say I'm in Dennis's office and we're sitting there talking, and Cornette calls up. Dennis will talk to him and then hang out and be like, oh, fucking jerk off. You know, and then you're sitting there like, you just had a 5-minute conversation with this guy like he's your friend, and now all of a sudden he's a jerk off. And then you're going on talking, and then somebody else calls up. Larry Sharp calls up, or maybe say that wrestler I talked about, Patch calls up, or somebody calls up like that. And it's the same thing. He's going on and on. Hey, brother, friend, yeah, my boy, what's up? Yeah, we're going to do some things. We're going to do this. I'm going to do this with you. I'm going to do that with you. As soon as he hangs up, fucking jerk off. Yeah, it's like, and I'm sitting there thinking, this motherfucker, I guarantee you, when I'm the other guy calling and he's sitting there talking to one of these guys, then I'm the fucking jerk off. You know, he was just a fucking major prick. Real prick. He didn't give a fuck about nobody. Didn't have a clue about how to fucking put a show together or what was good or what wasn't. It was his whole thing was that indie wrestling is like kind of a money-making scam or scheme, I think, for a lot of people, where they con people out of money. They promise them they're going to give them all this, they're going to give them, this big show, and they tell them, okay, look, we want $5,000 or $10,000, and then you justify why you need $10,000, and they write down a piece of paper and says icon $500, patch $500, and you write down all these names, and you're telling them how much you're going to pay these guys. And at the end of the show, Dennis is running out the fucking back door. You're lucky to even get paid. And it's like a big rip-off scheme. Is what it was. I'll be honest. And he's not the only one. There's other ones that have done it and are still doing it too. Totally the opposite of CZW. We ain't never fucking ripped nobody off, and we ain't never been one of those kinds of companies. We did it totally different than everybody else does it. But there's a lot of other fucking things I can say about Carluzzo. I don't think I'm going to say it right now, because there's going to be maybe a little shoot interview coming later, and I could tell you some other shit too.
You're transitioning the end of Icon. You feel you want to start your own promotion. How does that come about? Like, why do you decide, like, was it just working the different indies? Like, I don't like the way things are being run. You know what I mean? I can do this differently.
I'll be 100% honest. I didn't start CZW. CZW wasn't started to be a promotion. CZW was started because I felt that I was mistrained in a shithole place, and I wanted to have a place to train myself and get better, because I still wasn't great. You know what I mean? I'm still no Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean? But I wanted to start CZW, and I wanted to start a training center. I wanted to have weightlifting. I wanted to have, the ring time. I wanted to have everything all in one place, and it would better me. And as far as the indies went, the indies were always the last thing on my mind. Always in my mind, I always wanted to be in New York. Obviously, I think that's most people's dream, is to get up with Vince. And that's where I wanted to be. And that was the reason I started it. Not to do a promotion, but to start a school and have a place to train, for me to train and get better and train other people. And I knew enough to give people their basics, but I still needed more time myself. And that's why I started the CZW Training Center. Now, what happened was I got approached by some police officers in the township where I had opened the school. And they asked me if I would help them raise money for a DARE program. They came to me. I didn't go looking to them to rip them off either, like fucking some of these other jerk-offs. And I told them, what do you want me to do? Well, they were doing a haunted house next door into a building right next to where the wrestling school was. And they said, well, when we're doing the haunted house, when the people walk through, we'd like you to do a wrestling show, why the people could, like, leave the haunted house and then come through and watch the wrestling, or they could watch some wrestling and then go through and watch and go into the haunted house. And in the meantime, everybody, it helps raise money for this DARE program. So I talked to the students that I had at the time, and I made some calls and had, students call other students, all young, green guys, that didn't know a whole lot. And we put some shows together. And for like that whole, I think this was in 98, because I think, everybody knows CZW actually started in 99, but the wrestling school part, I think it was in 99, it was in October of 98. And we did these little shows. Every night we would put on little shows, and it was never my plan. And then next thing you know, I was getting letters and stuff from people saying, oh, you should do more, and people really liked what we were doing. And it was very small, and nobody was really known, but they liked what it was. And so next thing you know, the school turns into, it wasn't just the wrestling school, it turned into, the promotion it is now, Combat Zone Wrestling.
You talked about wanting to go up to Vince. Did you ever get a tryout, anything like that? Because you had the size.
Mm-hmm. I did go up to Vince one time, and this is taking me back to Carluzzo again. I did go. Actually, I went up there more than once. I went up one time, and I went up to their dojo or school or whatever you want to call it, warehouse, very much the same as where we started in Mantua. I just rode up to Connecticut, and I walked in the door like I owned the place, and the girl was sitting at the desk there, the receptionist, and I pointed to the door, and I says, are they in the back? And she says, yeah, they're back there. No questions asked. I just walked right in like I was already working for Vince. She didn't even question it. So I went in and started shaking hands. I think Michael Hayes, right? Freebird, Michael P.S. Hayes. He was there, The commentator, is it Ross?
Jim Ross.
Jim Ross. I met Jim Ross there. Actually met Stephanie McMahon there at the time. And just went in, started shaking hands, and said, I'm interested, coming up here and being a wrestler. And they kind of let me hang out. I mean, it didn't nobody, made a big deal about me or anything like that. I'm not saying they did, but they were cool. They let me hang out, and I watched what was going on. And nobody said, oh, come back. They said you had a good look. They gave me that. Oh, they said give him a tape. That's what they said, give him a tape. And anyway, I spent some time there, and then, if it was done, I left. Then what happened was I had pictures. I had some Icon pictures back in the day up in a vitamin store. I gave a guy a picture. He wanted an autograph, and he hung it up in his store. And a referee came in from one of Vince's refs, stopped in to get his vitamins. And he says, oh, I know that guy. He goes, they're looking at him right now. And my guy at the store told me about it, and I was like, damn, they're looking at me. Why don't somebody tell me they're looking at me, And I heard that, and I was like, wow. Next thing you know, I get one of these autograph signings at Danbury Mall up in Connecticut. So I go up to Danbury and do my Icon thing. I got my table set up, and I think Jim Cornette was up there. China, Sonny back in the day, Tapped, she was there. China and the other, what's her man back in the day? Triple H. Bunch of people were there. And I didn't know how it was going to work out because you got all these different, these big stars. People were lining up my table like crazy. I was like, holy shit, this is great. Well, I'm doing my thing. I'm just, I'm posing, getting pictures with little kids, and all that stuff. And next thing I know, this guy comes over from another table, and he's going, yo, Icon. Bruce Pritchard's over there. I'm like, who? What? Yeah, Brother Love. He's over. He's staring at you. Look, he's right over there. And I turn around, and there he was, just like watching everything I was doing. I was like, holy shit. And I was like, I had a girl with me at the time. I said, yo, here, take this picture. Go take the picture. Take a tape. Go run it over to him. And she ran over and gave it to him. And then I did wind up making my way over. And he said I had a good look and all that. And we'd like, we'll probably take a look at you. We'd like to take a look at you. Again, I never got no invitation. You know what I mean? They said we want to look at you. And, I heard they're looking at me and all this. Never got no good invitation. Anyway, I had an agent. I got an agent at the time. Not just, it was for wrestling or whatever, anything. He was out of New York. And right all in that same time frame, why it was kind of hot, you know what I mean? Because they were looking, they knew who I was. And he set up something where I had a two-day tryout with Vince. And the day I was supposed to go up, we were called to the hospital, me and my family, and my dad was dying. And they said, you need to get your family together and come up to the hospital. He's not going to make it through the night. So the day I was supposed to be in Connecticut, I went up to the hospital to see my dad. The good thing was, for the moment, my dad came out of that, but I missed that first day, and they moved him to another hospital. And I contacted my agent, and he contacted them, and it still wasn't good. But anyway, the next day, I drove to Connecticut anyway. I went back to Connecticut for the second half of the tryout. And, they didn't even have to let me in the door. They let me in. But the thing was, I think they had already weaned out guys, and they had who they wanted. And I was like a fifth wheel. If I remember, maybe there was like 6 guys there, and then here I am now at 7. And they were in their second day, and I think they were actually doing some matches. They were doing some matches and stuff. And they let me get in the ring. I went through the basic stuff, bumping, flip bumps and back bumps and hitting the ropes, and then a couple moves with a couple of the guys. I'm not sure, but Edge might have been one of the guys that was there back then. I'm pretty sure it was around Edge, and I think Droz might have been there too. But I went there and I did my thing, and after it was done, it was like, oh yeah, we'll be in touch. Nobody got in touch with me. But also on the way home from Connecticut, I'm driving, and I get a call and says, somebody tells me, he says, yo, Carluzzo contacted me. He says, yo, Icon's up fucking, Icon got a job up with Vince. They gave him a fucking mop and a fucking bucket and told him you could be a janitor or some fucking shit. Now, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not a fucking mind reader or a genius, but Dennis was always on the phone with fucking the chiropractor, Pritchard, who was the trainer back at the time. I don't know if he still is or not. And I'm pretty sure that Dennis made a call to him and says, yo, fuck this dude, he's a piece of shit or something. I couldn't prove that, but I'm pretty sure it was because, no, I didn't like go tell everybody, hey, I'm going to do a WWF tryout, you know. And hear this, how the fuck did he know that I was even up there? So I think I was fucked before I even went, you know. But I did try. That was it. And then after that, I never tried again. I know a lot of guys keep sending tapes back and they keep doing it. After that, I was done with that. Fucking fuck that. CZW, you know what I mean? And we moved on. And I did pretty much been doing CZW, you know, ever since.
Before we started, you talked about how where you were at a point in your life when you opened up the school. You want to get into that? Like how you started?
I was bad off, down on my luck. Got myself in some trouble. I won't go into a whole lot of details with trouble, but I did get myself in some trouble. Living in a hotel, in a fucking attic of a hotel. In the summer, no air conditioning. It was a fucking sweat box. I was working, you know, I was going to work. I had a job, but I really didn't have a place to live because the trouble I got in, I had to kind of bail out of where I was. And here I am in a hotel, and I don't know why I just finally said, you know what? I'm going to start a wrestling company. I think probably being fed up with guys like Carluzzo or Larry Sharp or fucking, there's so many other different ones. I think it just, you know, I don't know. I just decided that I was going to start this wrestling school, you know, and do what I needed to do. And I did. Before I even had a house to live in, I'm living in a fucking hotel, and I went out and I rented a fucking warehouse. Well, actually the back of a warehouse. I rented 4,000 square foot out of a 10,000 square foot building. And actually got a little ahead of myself. Before I did that, I contacted fucking the Pit Bulls. Actually, the one with the hair.
Gary.
Gary. I contacted Gary because I heard they had a ring. And Gary agreed to, he had a ring. And I says, well, look, at the time, they were kind of hot. You know what I mean? They came from the Monster Factory, too. And they had the ECW rub thing going on. And I told them that I'd be interested in using their ring and using them as actually front people for a wrestling school. I said, because I'm nobody. Nobody knows who I am coming up. But I got a building. You got a ring. I said, put the two together. And with you guys' faces on this school, I said, I think it'll be good for everybody. That was my thing, because nobody knew who I was. And Gary says, yeah, brother, no problem, you know, and yeah, we'll bring the ring down and all this shit. And got to the point, I don't know, a couple weeks, you know, between getting the building and everything. They're supposed to come down, I think it was a Friday. And they couldn't bring it, so I rented a truck. I said, I'll get the truck, I'll come get the ring and bring it down and set it up. So I'm calling, I got a truck, and I'm calling on a Friday, calling. Finally answers the phone. He's like, oh, brother, sorry, man. You know, I got other people own the ring, and, you know, we're not going to be able to fucking use the ring. So, you know, you're going to have to get another ring. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I fucking rented a building. I got a truck here. You know what I mean? And, you know, what the fuck? He said, well, you know, you get a ring somewhere else or whatever. I said, you know what? Fuck it. Whatever. I said, I'll build a fucking ring tomorrow. And that's what I did. I went out the next fucking day. Again, things weren't great. I was living in a fucking hotel. I borrowed somebody's credit card. I went and bought every fucking thing I needed to build a wrestling ring. I will give props to somebody. North Jersey, the big kid, choke slam dude, ECW. I'm sorry.
911.
Big
yeah,
Al. Al knew some horse people. I have some friends of mine who are in the horse racing business. And it was a weird coincidence that they were telling me about this. Al was over at their ranch, which was local down here, and he's from up north, I think. And he was talking about selling a wrestling ring. And so I called him, and we got talking, and he wanted too much money. I didn't have the money to buy the ring. But he was nice enough while I was talking to him to help me out with some information on the ring. How high is it supposed to be? How wide is it supposed to be? I didn't know, you know what I mean?
Right.
You see him, but you don't really know. He actually gave me a lot of good information. Thanks, Al. And I got my measurements, went out, like I said, borrowed a credit card, went and bought every fucking thing, brought it back. I'm not a welder, can weld a little bit, but I had a welder at the time that did work for me. I had him come down from fucking like Howell, New Jersey, came all the way down on a Saturday. We fucking welded it up, built the whole fucking ring. By the end of the day, Saturday, the ring was done. Sunday morning, I had my first student showing up to train. I always tell everybody Lobo was my first student. Little lie, I had one fucking jerk-off that showed up, actually, and he was a jerk-off. It's not even worth saying who he is, but anyway, he did come. There's a little funny story here to this. The ring was all done. It looked beautiful. Everything was fucking brand new. Way better than anybody else's wrestling school. You went to the building, looked good. It was, you know what I mean? The lights were working. The roof wasn't leaking. And I'm in there waiting for my student. I said, let me hit the ropes a little bit. And I'm fucking running. I'm hitting the ropes and hitting the ropes. And fucking all of a sudden I hit the ropes and boom, I'm airborne. Flipping up fucking side down. And I land on the fucking ground like this. And I got the rope in my hand. I'm like, what the fuck? Forgot to tighten up the fucking turnbuckles or something. I'm standing there and I got this kid coming to start training. I'm like, oh my God, I got to get this back together. Now I'm fucking trying to get the thing back together, and it's just me now, and I'm holding it and tightening it. Now I'm scared that the other ones are loose, so I'm pulling turnbuckles off and the padding, and I'm fucking making sure everything's all tight. Put it all back together, but before the dude got there, he came in, and it was all good. But tell you what, I was nervous about hitting the ropes for a long time after that.
How did he even know there was a school? Did you?
Flyers. I put flyers around in near schools, video stores, pizza joints, all kind of places like that. Which is how Lobo found CZW, which was almost immediately right around the same time as this kid. Lobo found that Lobo loves movies. He's a video nut, and he found it at a video store. He just happened to go to the same video store that I went to, and he came walking in with it, and he's like, "Is this the wrestling school?" And I said, "Yeah." You know, the rest, I guess, is history because everybody knows who the fuck Lobo is, a sick fucker.
You're doing the shows during the DARE program. Were they like a family-oriented show then? Wait, where did the introduction of the?
All right. I think you like the hardcore stuff or the ultra.
Yeah. Like,
let me just step back a little. I know where you're going, but let me say that when I was the icon, even though I was the icon and I was trying to portray this superhero guy, I always tried to incorporate hardcore in my matches. I always wanted something. I always wanted a chair. Give me something, a table. Any place I would work, I would always say, can we use something? You know what I mean?
Right.
And everybody, oh, no. And a lot of times there'd be an ECW guy on the show. And, the ECW guys will do that. The ECW guys will do that. From, all of them. Every promoter, because the ECW guys were out, getting indie work. And it was always, let the ECW guys do that. It was like, and I always wanted to do it. I'll be honest, the hardcore stuff is something that's in here. It's in my blood. It's something I've lived a hardcore life, you know what I mean, with the upbringing, fighting. I've done underground street fighting, and I don't want to go into details of that, but things like that. I've put my fists through windshields. I've put my head through friggin' windows. I mean, all these things that I do in the wrestling. It's kind of I've done it. It's in me, you know what I mean. So even though I was doing a superhero thing because that business-wise, I thought that was the right thing to do, there was still this guy, which now known as Zandig, inside of me that wanted to get out. And I think when you hear Zandig in the ring, when you hear me talking right now, I'm talking normal.
Right.
And then when Zandig gets in the fucking ring, you know what I mean? That guy's in me, you know what I mean? He's always been there. When I was the Icon or Zandig or John, that fucking Zandig person is inside of me. And that's, I don't know. That's, he just always wanted to come out. All right? And with the CZW, with the school, starting the school, and then went to doing the shows. Even with the shows, what happened with how I really introduced the hardcore stuff was with the Backyard Kids. And a lot of people talk shit. Fuck all you motherfuckers, because I've been around the world, and so have my guys, and the guys that started in the backyard. Okay? They started in the backyard, these kids, and I used to call them my hardcore boys. And a lot of people probably know Justice Payne, Nick Gage, Lobo, TCK, even Rick Blade. We may not ever seen a drop of blood unless he jumped off something too high. but they were all like into that hardcore stuff. They didn't know how to do a fucking headlock, a wrist lock. They didn't know how to do nothing. But they weren't afraid of anything. They fucking hit themselves with stuff, and they would try to do all the moves, but they didn't know what they were doing. And what happened was, with CZW, even with the little shows, and we started with the Dare program, we started out, and it was mostly fun. I mean, Christ, we had, who was it, the Corky, the retard or whatever.
Right, yeah.
He was there. He would go in the bathroom and friggin', he would act like he had to go poop, and he would leave and go to the bathroom while the people were waiting to see what's going on, and he comes running out with, toilet paper hanging out his ass. You know what I mean? So there was always funny things like that and all, but at the same time, I had them hardcore boys who were just itching to do stuff, and they would go out and do regular matches at first, and then it was just like, incorporate something. So do some hardcore. So we started out with the cookie sheets and things like that. The little ECW hardcore stuff used to be, and we did that right from the very beginning. We did that. I mean, it wasn't major. There wasn't barbed wire and light tubes, but we right away started incorporating that type of stuff. And I had a foundation of them young kids, them backyard kids that had the no fear. And that's the thing, having no fear to do that kind of stuff. And me always wanting to do it, I've always done it everywhere but the wrestling ring, or on a trampoline in the backyard or whatever these dudes were using. But it was always there and I always wanted to do it. So we get through the Dare program thing. We did our little thing, did a little bit of the hardcore stuff. And then we start doing regular shows. I think the first show we did, I had 400 people at it. Which was like, wow, you know what I mean? There's some people never have 400 people at a show, And I think 99 99. Did me and Nikki do something?
There was a staple gun, barbed wire brawl.
These kinds of matches. First barbed wire match I was in, totally against drinking, smoking. I don't smoke weed. I don't do drugs. I drink once in a while. Most of the time, you fuckers see me in the ring guzzling. Half of it's going down in front of me, and I throw it up in the air. But totally against drinking and drugs and all that shit before you get in the wrestling ring. Do whatever you want afterwards. But the first barbed wire match that I did back in '99, as tough guy as I was nervous. I brought an 8-pack with me in a cooler, and I was in the back, and I got my friggin' beer, and I thought I was going to drink an 8-pack before I went out. And I think I drank about a half a beer, and I said, you know what? I can't drink into this, and I put the beer down. And I didn't. I was never in the ring drunk, high, or nothing ever. But I was nervous. I really was. And but we went out, we did our thing, and it was fun. And then we went from barbed wire to glass and light tubes and fire, and everything. But at the same time, it never was. That's not all we did.
Right.
Our reputation was fucking, backyarders, fucking, they can't wrestle, they fucking, hit each other over the head with shit. CZW ain't never been a hack and slash company. And for anybody who don't know what that is, that's people who hit you over the head and fucking cut themselves. Most of our fucking cuts, ain't nobody cutting ourselves. We're getting cut because we're out there doing the shit for fucking real. And if you don't believe me, fuck you. But the hardcore stuff was it was actually a small part because all night you had wrestling, you had high flying, you had mat wrestling, comedy, like I said, Corky the fucking retard. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? You're going to be, there's your barbed wire match later, but before that, you got Corky out there fucking shitting himself and having poop on his hand. You know what I mean? It's just, there was always a mix of everything, even though people, tend to say all we do is hardcore. And I'm proud of the hardcore because we do it good. And as far as I'm concerned, we've been doing it better than fucking most for a long, long time. And not just me. I'm talking a lot of guys been through CZW locker room. They've all done good shit. And if you ain't no good, you're fucking gone. But yeah, so the hardcore stuff did it almost right from the beginning. You know what I mean? It was almost right. It was right there. With that foundation of them young kids. That was the only way to do it. If I didn't have those young kids, I don't know what CZW would have been. The very people who shit on. I was the untrained asshole that couldn't work and started the promotion because, what do they say? Because I couldn't get work, so I had to start a promotion so I could wrestle or something. I've heard stories or whatever people say this. Yeah,
everything.
And fuck all you motherfuckers. I started it to have a wrestling school and fucking trained to get myself better. So fuck all yous about that. And the backyard kids, they all fucking came a long fucking way, and every one of them could fucking probably wrestle circles around me because I forget fucking half of what the fuck I taught them. But the fucking backyard kids, yeah, they started in the backyard. And the best thing about that was that they had no fucking fear. Let me tell you something. Anybody out there that's a trainer, if you can get somebody that comes from the backyard that don't have no fear, you're fucking way ahead of the game. Because anybody that walks in that wrestling ring, whether they want to admit it or not, they're fucking scared. They're scared to take that fucking first bump. They're scared to fucking speak when they got the microphone in their hand. You get these fucking young kids that have been playing wrestler in the backyard, you're fucking way better off. And thank God for all them kids, because if it wasn't for them, CZW and myself would have never fucking been to where we was. I needed that foundation, and I got real lucky with that foundation of guys, and we just kept going and going and going. And we're still here, you fucking jerk-offs, naysaying motherfuckers.
The Mantua building. I think, what was the first show we went to? The second show?
Smart Mark, front row, I remember.
That's right. And we've been together, what, 8 years, 9 years?
There's nothing wrong with that.
That was thanks to Bob McGee.
Yeah, he came to see the first one. He's like, you gotta come see this. They're doing this crazy shit. And it's like, by that time, ECW was gone, so it was like, you guys were kind of like filling that void with something fresh, something new.
Before you go any further, ECW wasn't gone.
It wasn't
when we
gone.
first started.
Right, yeah,
but
they were
I
still
think
there.
They were going national. They were getting too big for their britches, and I think
so they were in town like
down.
once every 6 weeks or
and
something.
I think they started toning down a little bit on what they were doing because of where they were, like on the TV and all that kind of stuff. And with us, I didn't ever watch a whole lot of ECW. I've been 2 or 3 shows. That is it. And I took my son for his birthday was one time, and another one was because the Steiner brothers were there, and I was a fan of fucking the younger brother,
Scott
Papa Pump now. Yeah, and I went there to see him. And I don't remember one other time I went. But a lot of people say, oh, ECW ripoff and this and that. I never really watched their stuff. I never really knew exactly what they did. You know what I mean? And a lot of people thought that. It wasn't the case. But I've noticed over the years, a lot of stuff that I've done or things like I came up with in my head, ideas, and people say, oh, well, ECW or Paulie did that or Paul Heyman did that. And I'm like, damn, this motherfucker, you know what I mean?
Right.
So in some ways, me and Paul Heyman, you know, I don't think we're anything alike, but I think we thought alike on some level in the wrestling business. But it was never a ripoff of ECW. It was never a copycat. It was just another company out here doing, you know, doing very similar. But it wasn't a footprint. I never watched it and copied it. It wasn't like that. And some people may think I'm full of shit, but I'm not. There's no reason for me to lie about it. It really wasn't the case. But I'm glad we did. I mean, I'm glad that we fucking did go the route that we did. I'll be honest, ECW made it fucking hard. It made it hard because as CZW was progressing and the more I learned, once again, wrestling is a learning process, especially the way I did it from just watching WWF, period. That's all I did. I didn't know anything else. So the more you're in the business, you're learning more and more, and the ECW, you're hearing about them and the things that they do. You just keep on learning. And one thing that I learned is, I don't know if, I'm sure you guys remember, some of you guys, fucking the submission hold, you know, an abdominal stretch and fucking you're tapping and you're done. Somebody does a fucking moonsault on you, you're done. You know, a clothesline or lariat, whatever you want to call it, done, you're pinned. It ain't like that no fucking more.
Right.
And I didn't fucking change that. CZW didn't change that. ECW changed that. They fucking made it twice as hard because instead of getting hit with a moonsault and getting covered, you had to get hit with fucking 3 moonsaults and then a fucking chair shot, and then you might get covered for a pin. So now we are this up-and-coming thing, and ECW, like you said, was kind of on the way out at the time. You can't go backwards. You can't do less. You know, if you want to get recognized, you have to do more. So now instead of 3 moonsaults and a chair shot, it's 4 moonsaults and 2 chair shots. You know what I mean? So it was, they made it really fucking hard on us. I mean, it made us work harder, you know what I mean? But it also cuts our life expand, I think, in the business that we do. I mean, it seems like with CZW, most of the top guys do the hardcore stuff and take the big shit 5 years and done. You know what I mean? And I don't blame anybody for what we go through, but
you see that burnout, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a burnout, and I don't know if it's a burnout. It's
and
also
a breakdown.
What more can you do? Like,
right.
I'll bring up Mondo here. Like, when me and Mondo went off of that roof down in Delaware, I don't know if I heard of him maybe being in a ring somewhere after that. I'm not sure if he was. It may have been a rumor once or twice. But, I mean, he told me how could I top that? How could he top it? How could he ever do anything more than that move off of that roof? And besides that, we could have fucking died. The damn tables, you know what I mean? We barely even hit the tables. It was almost like just hitting asphalt. And Mondo, you know, he says, what more can I do? It's almost, you know, like with me. I'm never going to WWF. You know, I realized that years ago. I didn't even want to go. I don't even want to go. You know what I mean? It got to the point I don't give a fuck. You know, I'm happy where I am with CZW doing our thing. But sometimes you got to say enough is enough, you know what I mean? Whether it's burnout or whether it's you do something so crazy, how could I ever top that? I mean, Mondo, you know, I love you, dude. I don't know if I know you do your thing and all, and I do mine. We're on different, you know, ends of the United States and all, but you got out of a good time. You probably could never top that. You know what I mean? Mondo, and he's done a lot of shit, but that fucking bump could have been the end of his life, and you know, he got out at the right time. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think you're better off getting out on a high like that than being, I'm not going to bring up anybody's name, but there's some of them are, you know, there's plenty of people around who are still trying to hang on. Give it the fuck up. You know who you are. I'm not even going to fucking say your names. You're fucking, it doesn't work anymore. Give it up. You know what I mean? But Christ, I held on to my hair as long as I could. You know what I mean? But
you're in the Mantua building. You're working with the police doing the DARE programs. You start doing shows, and then you run into issues with zoning, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember going back to the first show we were at. I think at that time for the insurance, not to bring his name back up again, but I think you were using Dennis for the insurance, right? Because it was Dennis and Kettner that sat right next to us.
Never. I would never...
Or were they just checking out what was going on?
They were checking out what was going on, exactly. Checking out the competition before it started. You know what I mean? I guess. I remember when you're telling me, I've heard that I never seen them, but I was told that they were in the audience. And it's funny, Dennis and Kettner are hanging out together, but yet if you were with Dennis the day before, he would be telling you how much of a fucking jerk off and a homo and everything else that fucking Kettner is. And I've actually hung out with Kettner. I've never been to a Kettner show. I don't believe. I was at another show, somebody's show it was in North Jersey, and I met him, and then I met him over at WWF. I was in the locker room one night years ago, hanging out. I had a friend over there, and I wound up hanging out with the boys for a while, and I was hanging out with Kettner over there. But to my face, he never had a bad thing to say. He didn't have a bad thing to say about anybody else, whether Carluzzo or anybody. But, you know, so, no... Kettner, you do whatever the fuck you want to do, as long as you stay away from me. But he was nothing like the scumbag promoter like a Carluzzo was. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know. I've never heard any bad things about Kettner. I mean, I don't know if you have, but as far as him, he stays in his place over there in Delaware. He does his shows. I know he has. I don't know a lot about it. I know he has a Super 8. You know what I mean? Right? That's a junior thing. He does, that him? Which is cool. I know it gets some press, and he just does his own little thing. I think he's a fan of the game, and he does that, but he doesn't really bother with anybody.
Right, he does.
There is some rumors of him maybe little digs on us in Delaware when we were going down towards Delaware because he's from there, but I don't know that it ever happened, so I'm not going to go there. But you take Carluzzo and him, they're two total different people. Two totally different people.
Into the building issues, what all happened
George
there?
fucking Davis. Fucking building inspector in Mantua. The worst thing that ever happened was I was in the building in Mantua for a year. We were doing shows. Everything was fine. I didn't know anything about zoning and different things you needed to do or get or whatever. Here we go again. Goldilocks. Larry Sharp moves into fucking Mantua. Fucking maybe 2 blocks from the fucking police station, which is also the zoning office and court and everything else. And he starts doing shows behind this daycare center in a fucking warehouse. And there was people parking on the street, and it was just a mess. And I never had a problem in Mantua for a year, like I said. And here Larry gets there and fucking just fucks up right from Jump Street. And they go over and give him a hard time about it. And instead of just dealing with the issues and whatever he needed to do to make things right, he says, oh, well, Icon does it. He's right up the fucking street. Well, why do I got to do it? Why are you giving me a hard time? Why don't you give Icon a hard time? So next thing I know, I get this fucking George Davis building inspector comes over, putting a red fucking sticker on my building, telling me we can't do what we do. So I contacted the guy, I said, what do I have to do so I can do what we've been doing for a year? And he tells me, he says, you go to zoning and you get, I don't remember the other guy's name, but you go to zoning, you talk to so-and-so. If he says it's okay, it's okay. Went to zoning with the landlord of the building and talked to this guy, and he says, John, you've been down there for a year. We know you've been down there. You don't bother anybody. If anybody remembers Mantua, it was down off, off the street, didn't bother anybody. And we had our bathrooms, we had our fire exits, we had what we needed as far as I was concerned. And anyway, this guy says, you're fine. As long as we don't get any complaints, you keep doing what you're doing. So I go back thinking I'm going to go do what I do. We're ready to start another show coming up, and here comes this fucking George Davis with another red sticker. I said, George, what are you doing? I said, you told me to go. He goes, yeah, well, he don't want to be the bad guy. I guess I'm going to be the bad guy. No shows. I'm like, what do you want, dude? What do I got to do shows? So he just started making demands on things. He wanted a flatter walkway around the building.
I remember that.
Triaxles of friggin' stone I had to bring in to put around the building. I had to build steps that were so high and so wide, and he wanted more outside lighting, more egress and degress with the exits inside the building. And then at one point, there was another person who was renting part of the building, and a mechanic was in there. This was the worst. This fucker made me build a wall around the mechanic, which had a steel wall around it. He said it wasn't fire rated, and he fucking made us build a whole double fire rock, sheetrock wall. It was like $14,000 for this fucking wall, which had to be done. And he always had me under pressure to where it was like, we got a show next week, or we got a show on Saturday. I got to get this fucking done now, like this week. And next thing you know, all right, we get the fucking wall done. He would come, and he'd fucking say, all right. And then I would do a show. And the motherfucker would show up the next month and say, all right, now I want something else. I'm like, George, are you fucking kidding me? And every fucking month, it was just something else. And I'll be honest, if I remember the number, I know it was somewhere in the $50,000 range, to where I was up to have spent $50,000 in this building. And trying to build fucking CZW at the same, you're trying to build a company. You're not making a ton of money as is. You're trying to build something up, and this guy just keeps fucking you. You're going up, you get knocked the fuck back down. And I wound up, I got out of the fucking building. I got to the point, I told landlord, I said, I can't fucking do it no more. I said, this fucking guy is killing me. And we bailed out of there, and I had to get out of the building. And we had to find another place, which we did, close, which was Champs. With the crab truck and the whole bit, you fuckers. And we moved into there for a little while. That was a soccer arena, and we made a deal with them once a month that we would use it. And we started doing shows at Champs. It was literally, I don't even think it was 2 miles. I bet it was a mile from the other place. But when we left Mantua and came over to Sewell or Washington Township, whatever you want to call it, a mile away, half the people just disappeared. It was all, here we go. Now we just lost thousands of dollars with the building inspector, and now it's like we got to start over again. Anybody in their right mind, let me say, most companies, wrestling companies, don't make it a fucking year. If anybody went through the fucking year I went through with George Davis and Mantua, they would have never went as long as I did. But I just kept fucking going. I kept dumping it. It was like I see there was something. We had something, and I just knew that I had to keep going. And we left there, and we went over to the fucking Champs, and we doing our shows in there, and with no people. It was like fucking, like I said, we lost half the people. Now it's like, how are we going to fucking pull this off? I used to have to come to the shows with money in the pocket because at the end of the night, there was no money to pay anybody. And, but I just, like I said, I just had this, there was something. I knew I had something special. I knew I had these kids. I don't want to forget anybody else, but my backyard kids were the fucking best thing going. They were my foundation. That was CZW, was the foundation with them kids. And I knew that I could build around them. And I just had to keep going. And I fucking kept doing it. And we did shows at Champs. And that went, I don't know, do you remember how long were we at Champs? Did we do a year there? There was a...
Yeah.
About a year. Yeah, we did about a year there. In the meantime, I know we talked about ECW going out. ECW did go out. They stopped running the arena. I was contacted early on, I think, when we were in Champs. I think it was Champs. I was contacted from somebody over there and said, yo, the arena's open. Do you want to come in the arena with your wrestling company or your product or whatever? And I remember saying, you know what? I don't think we're ready yet. And I didn't want to, it's not like, I didn't want to jump right in there. I wanted to be ready to go, and I didn't want to, kind of like, oh, fuck them, they're out. We're taking their building. It was nothing like that. I wanted to be ready before we went. And time went on, and, we were doing all right. It still wasn't, thousands of people or nothing like that at the shows, but I thought the product was getting better, and the fans did pick up. And so we did the champs for a while, and then eventually I said, let me go talk to these people at the arena. And I went over to Philly, and, before we went to fucking Philly, we had to fight with more problems. We had to fight with the Christy Whitman. Remember, there was a problem with that, too. That may be what was the motivation. Now that I think of it, that might be what pushed me over the edge to leave Jersey. Even though it was always in the back of my head, the ECW arena, it was like the world-famous arena. But that was just more problems with the lulls and all that, with the extreme wrestling lull that came about. And I don't know if anybody knows this. You should all know by now. That wasn't fucking CZW's fault. It was that fucking fat jerk-off up in fucking North Jersey. And you know who the fuck I'm talking about too, Frank. You fucking asshole. You were fucking told to tone it the fuck down. You got a church fucking right next door to where you're at, and what the fuck do you do? Oh, fuck you. You can't tell me what to do. There's no fucking law. Well, guess what, jerk-off? Now there is a fucking law, so you fucked us all.
And I think it was the interview that Louis did in the Star Ledger.
They had fucking pictures of our guys in there, but it was their fucking mess that started all. It wasn't us, but I think we got more fucking bad fucking press from it, And everybody says any press is good press, good or bad, you know what I mean? But in that particular instant, it fucking wasn't. It was just bad. And I went to the fucking meeting up there. Who did I go in front of? Them fucking people? Was it like the
Oh, I can't remember the state athletic commissioner because he's no longer around.
No, it wasn't just him. It wasn't like Larry Hazard. I went with him too. No, I went before that board. The fucking who the hell were they, like council people and all that shit. I went up there to speak on behalf of wrestling, not just me, but on behalf. And I go up there, and here's this fucking Frank dude up there talking too. Like I think 3-4 people showed up, and there was 3 of us. I think it was 3 of us that were talking for, leave us alone, let us do what we do, it's entertainment, which it is entertainment.
Right.
It's not a fucking sport, it's nobody's business. If I was Vince, I would never have a fucking problem. But he's up there and talking to these people, and I'm thinking, dude, you're fucking burying us over here, man. Why? What the fuck? So I sat there and I'm waiting. I'm still waiting my turn. In the meantime, this woman gets up. I don't remember her name. Her and her husband do a promotion. They're North Jersey people. I actually used some of their kids when I first started. Well, they got up there and they're saying, oh, yeah, you should eliminate all of that, and this is bad, and it's no good. And I'm like, oh, great. I got Fat Frank up there talking stupid shit, making it look bad, and I got this lady saying it's no good. I'm like, we're done. We're done. They never even called my name. They start wrapping everything the fuck up. And I'm like getting out. I said, and I was with somebody, and they says, you going to talk? You going to say anything? I said, they didn't even call my name. Fuck it. I'm starting to walk out the door. We're getting ready to leave. And somebody says, oh, excuse me, there's one more name we forgot. And they asked if I was in the building. And I says, yeah, I'm here. And I turned around. And they said, well, would you like to talk? And I says, why bother? I said, look at you up there. I says, you're falling asleep. I said, you've been twirling a fucking... I didn't say that. You know how I am.
Right.
I said, you're over there twirling a pencil. I says, you two been talking the whole time we've been here. I says, you made up a decision before we even got here. Why bother talking? And all of a sudden, I get people are sitting up, and everybody's like, oh, holy shit. And then even the people, like, this guy, you could tell, like, everybody's like, whoa, who's this guy? I didn't know what I was going to say. And Mike, you know me, even like with in the ring promos, I'm not one of these guys that sits home and thinks
about it,
or sits in the back like what I'm going to say. I just speak, and I just start talking. I wish I could remember. It would probably be like that movie with Tom Cruise and what's his name? Jack Nicholson. What the hell was that movie called?
A Few Good Men.
Few Good Men, yeah. When he was up there, when Jack Nicholson started going off.
You Can't Handle the Truth.
Yeah, and all that. I'm like, holy shit. Well, whatever that was, and I'm not trying to put myself in that category, but the way that made you feel, when I was up there speaking, I know some of them people, they were just like focused. They were like, holy shit. And they did listen to me. And I don't remember what I said, but I just spoke on behalf of wrestling. You know what I mean? It was entertainment. I didn't go up there just talking about CZW and all this shit and trying to get myself over. And by the time it was done, 2 of these, I think they might have been senators, 2 of these guys came up to me outside. We left the room and they came up to me. They actually sided with me. They sided where it was going to be unanimous, everybody. 2 people did side with me. And they came up to me outside and they says, you can beat this. They says, get yourself a lobbyist. He says, there's way too many holes in this. He says, I believe you. He says, I think you're sincere. He says, I believe everything that you just said in there. He says, get yourself a lobbyist. He says, you can beat this. And I said, I don't have money for a lobbyist. You know what I mean? I done lost $50,000 in a building. I'm losing money every day building this wrestling company. I mean, I wish it was that easy to where I could take a lobbyist. Ain't cheap. You're talking another $20,000 to give them, and a lobbyist is just somebody who knows somebody. You know what I mean? That talks to them and gets things done. I wish if I was a money guy, it would have been done. And you know what? We probably would have got rid of this law in New Jersey, but it didn't. So anyway, we went to Philly.
You're doing the CZW stuff. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. 99. How does the whole Japan intertwining with CZW? There was a company from Texas. I can't remember. Get into that whole.
I believe it was magazines. I think they saw us, maybe WOW back then. I'm not sure. I think WOW used to cover some stuff for us. And they was reading something in there about WOW. The film company you were talking was a film company in Texas, and they do animation, Japanese animation,
right.
Anime, whatever they call it. And they must. One of the people, I think the vice president of the company, don't remember his name, was he read this. He must have seen some stuff in the magazines, and then I don't know if they bought tapes or if they went online or whatever. But I got contacted by them, and they says, "Wow, we'd like to come up to a show." Well, the vice president of the company did come up, and he checked out what we were doing. He was like, "Oh, we got to have this. We got to sell this. We want this." And I was like, "Well, let's talk business."
Right.
And probably 2 or 3 trips to Houston. They flew me to Houston, and we had meetings and business meetings. They took me out for $200 steak dinners and took me to friggin' strip places where there's friggin' pussy every fucking where. You know what I mean? Like
right.
couch dances, and I would be like, I ain't never paid for it in my life, and I ain't paying for it. But, these dudes with money, you know what I mean? They're out. And but anyway, I mean, that all, you know what I mean? It's just part of it. They get you out there, and they try to get your head all, you know what I mean? Like
frazzled.
Yeah. But I went in the office and sat down to sign a deal with them. And it was just a video deal at first.
Right.
And I had my briefcase with me at the time, and I had a proposal in my briefcase on what I wanted from them for us. And we were talking for a while, and I reached down, and we're getting to that point, and I started to pull it out, and then the president of the company says to the vice president, he says, I don't know why it came up, but he said something about, well, what did we make last year? How much was it? $75 million? Yeah, something like that, $75 million. And I went, I put it back in the briefcase, and I zipped it shut, and just $75 million, I'm thinking. Because what I was thinking was nowhere near that. They were a lot bigger than I thought they were, put it this way. I mean, I went down there thinking they're, some little film company. And when you went in their office, all it was a little tiny thing. It was no big deal. And after they said that with the $75 million, then we talked more. Next thing you know, they took me through their building and show them. They walked through one door, and then there's like 20 people in a room with a beach ball around. These are their creative team, getting paid to just come up with ideas. And then they took me into like another room, and it was their art department. And I'm just thinking it's just this one little office. Next thing you know, they open this friggin' warehouse door, and it's this friggin' huge warehouse packed with just animation videos. I'm like, wow, I'm thinking this is going to be big time.
Right.
Well, it went from that, and I didn't make a deal. Because at that point, I had to totally rethink the whole thing. Right. And I came back home and thought about it. Well, in the meantime, they have an office in Tokyo who sells ADV, sells their films. That's their office there, and had also one in Australia, and or England, one or the other. But anyway, the people down there were interested. They says, "Oh, this kind of stuff will work over here in Japan. We can get some, wrestling. We can get them wrestling in Japan."
Mm-hmm.
So it was really them, ADV, and their offices trying to combine the video sales with some live shows over in Japan. So to get the ball rolling, they got me to meet with this Kojika guy over there with whoever they're called, Big Japan.
Right.
Got me to meet with them and negotiated kind of a deal with them, but in reality the deal was with the film company.
Right.
And I made a deal with them where they would pay X amount of dollars, and then Kojika would pay X amount of dollars. And I didn't know what Kojika was doing with them. I was just doing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out, Kojika had them flying us in, flying us back. The film company was paying for all the flights and everything. And Kojika was getting a piece of it as well. He was also getting more money. So he probably made a better deal than I did. But that's how it came about. It was a film company, and we were locked in for a year. It was a signed contract. So for 1 year, I was dealing with ADV. I got money from ADV, and I also got money from Kojika, which wasn't much. It was more so my deal was really with the film company, and we did that and for a year. And then after a year, the film company didn't want to be bothered anymore. And I'll be honest, I think the reason the film company didn't want to be bothered, my opinion, I think Kojika just sucked them dry.
Right.
I think he just sucked as much out of them, and he just couldn't do nothing. Just couldn't do it, and they bailed out. But they wanted us back, so then I had to make another deal just with Big Japan. So then it was a new deal, and we put another year into it. You know what I mean? And we were actually scheduled on going on to the third year as well. But the third year, Kojika started talking like he wanted to cut the boys' pay.
Right.
Not my pay. He wanted to cut the boys' pay. Talking probably cheaper hotels and things like that. I don't remember exactly the whole conversation.
Food stipends.
Yeah, like because we always got expense money. My guys always got money for eating. They got put in a hotel, and if they got put in a hotel that was too fucking shitty, we'd stay there tonight because they would drop us off. The next morning, we'd be outside with our fucking bags, and they'd be go, "Oh no, stay." I said, "No, we don't stay here no fucking more. Give us a nicer fucking hotel." Not to pat myself on the back, but I always looked out for the boys. Always fucking number one, making sure the guys got fucking paid and making sure the guys got food and things like that. But he didn't want. He was trying to cut the pay, and I told him it wasn't going to happen. We're not doing it. I told him. As a matter of fact, I told him. I says, if you want to spend less money, because at this point I was beat up pretty good.
Right.
I says, I'll stay home. I said, leave me home. You don't need me here every month. I says, maybe quarterly. I'll come in maybe 4 times a year, set up a big angle, something big. I'll come and do a big match for you or something like that. I said, that way you keep, you know what I mean? Everything will stay the same. And you'll save money because you're not paying me. And, oh, no, you number one. You have to be here. It's like, you got to be here. I said, well, then we all got to be here and you got to pay everybody. And that discussion was at the last show that I did for them. And it was a big show, building the size of the Spectrum, 18,000 people, maybe 18,000 people. And at the end of the show, no fucking car, no truck to take us home, no bus, no nothing. Half of the guys walked back to the hotel. I think I got a cab. Some of us got cabs. Some of the guys walked back. And the next day, we're supposed to schedule to get picked up and go home. They come and pick us up, and usually they sit with me, and they pay me at the table like in a restaurant. And then they take us to the airport. Never showed up. Never came to take us to the airport. So I'm making phone calls. First I get somebody, then I don't. And the clock's ticking. We missed our flight. The hotel's saying, check out. I said, don't nobody check the fuck out. Leave your shit in your rooms. And I was trying to make the guys think it wasn't, I was as nervous as I was, but I'm like, what the fuck? We're stuck in Japan right now. I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And, what happened was finally I went out, didn't say nothing to the boys. I got a friggin' taxi. I don't even know how I found it, but I got to their office. When I got to their office, I walked in. The fucking girls started running. I went down. They ran out of the upstairs office. I went down to the downstairs office. Then the fucking dudes downstairs went fucking running. And they're fucking, oh, no, please. I'm like, you motherfuckers. You know what I mean? I said, what the fuck is going on? Where's Kojika? Oh, we don't know. Oh, Kojika gone. He take the money. We don't know. I says, you better give me some fucking money now. I said, you better get some fucking plane tickets. I'm telling you. And I believe it was the referee, Tasaka maybe? I'm not sure. Is it Tasaka? Do you remember? Maybe Tasaka. He was like a booker, referee dude over there, yeah. And it was him, and he pulls out an envelope, and he hands me this little fucking envelope with some money in it. Over there it's brown instead of green, like, the hundreds or whatever. And there was wasn't enough money to pay me. I says, are you fucking kidding me? I says, dude, you're paying us. I says, and we ain't leaving until we get our money. And he says, oh, please, I make calls. And now he's making calls, talking Japanese and all this. And he got Shadow WX to borrow money from his mother. He got Yamakawa, and Yamakawa married the ADV Films girl that worked for ADV Films, which he met because of CZW, because of all that stuff. He married her, and I guess she must have been either wealthy or, had some money aside or whatever. Got Yamakawa to get money from his new wife that he had just married. And I don't know where else they got it, but I know that's two people that stepped up to the plate, was Yamakawa and Shadow WX, and got us some money. And he says, I'll be at the hotel tomorrow, I'll bring your money, and and we'll have you flights. I said, you better get it fucking done. And I was ready to kill somebody at that point. I mean, I think they knew it. Back to the hotel, next morning, I'm lying. That night he showed up and he came with money. Didn't come with all the money. Came with almost enough to pay the boys. I left with nothing. The boys got almost their money. It was a little light, but they almost got all their money. And I says, yeah, I got to get fucking paid or whatever. And, we'll promise we'll get it. We'll mail it or whatever. And I left. I couldn't stay in Japan, obviously.
Right.
So I left. I go home. And a month goes by, and I'm thinking, fuck this. I'm getting my money. Jumped on a fucking plane, flew myself in the fucking next time they were at Corrigan Hall, and I walked into fucking Corrigan Hall looking for fucking Kojika and looking for my money. And they grabbed me and got me to go in a room, and it was like Yamakawa, Shadow, Tasaka, office girls, and there's some office guys too. And they were trying to explain to me, well, it's okay, we're going to get you your money. I think they were waiting to get the money from the gate to pay me. Because they said Kojika kind of must have took a bunch of money. We weren't the only people to get paid.
Right.
Like other people didn't get paid either. And then Kojika comes in the fucking room, and this guy's like wants me to. He's like, "Why he here?" I'm like, "Motherfucker!" And I got up and I stood in his face. I said, "Why am I here? Where's my fucking money?" And all of a sudden he starts talking Japanese. I said, "Don't fucking start that shit, motherfucker. You talk just as good a fucking English as I do," and he does because we have many conversations. Until it comes time to talk with money, all of a sudden he can't speak. But then we were like nose to nose, and they were pulling us back, and they're calling, "Oh, boss, stop, please, boss," And then they asked me, I don't know why, but they asked me to go in the ring and shake hands with him, like in front of everybody. Because I think this was out. I think everybody knew that some shit hit the fan. Yeah, and he put out that I was bad business. Still to this day, people in Japan think I'm bad business, and I didn't do anything wrong here. But when I went in the ring, I did shake his hand, but I'll be honest, I shook his hand, and it was one of these Dennis Carluzzo flip-off, like, yeah, fuck you. I'll be honest, it was. I was pissed off. I did it, but it was very nonchalant, And but I went up top, and I got my money. They drove me back to the hotel, and picked me up and gave me a ride to the fucking airport in the morning. Office was great. I mean, they did what they said they were going to do. I think, to this day, they did it behind Kojika's back. I don't think he even knows I got paid. I think they did it, they wanted to continue in good business,
right.
You know what I mean? And Kojika just, I don't know. I heard he's done this to other people before, too. It's like he gets to a point, he uses people, and he gets to a level, and he thinks it's all good, and then he don't need you anymore, and he thinks he can run without you. And then what happens, he's got to find somebody else, you know what I mean, that he could fucking suck off of, But, and that was the Japanese story. I mean, the AD Films Company seen us through a magazine, and it went from just doing videos, and I don't think they ever sold one video. You've never seen one out, did you? I've never saw one.
There was one DVD released way back in the day, but I don't think they did that. I think somebody else did that.
I don't think they put one out. They have footage. They own the footage from Japan. Everything that we did in Japan,
right.
They made some kind of a deal, for that footage. But I've never heard of anything being out. I know they're still around. They're
right.
still doing the anime. But that was the start of it. I mean, they got us over in Japan. And as far as the Japan thing, a lot of people say, they never wanted to go to WWF. They only want to go to Japan. I didn't even know what the fuck was going on in Japan. I knew nothing about wrestling in Japan. I didn't know nothing about them being, I'm going to be honest, semi-hardcore. And don't get me wrong, guys. I know there's some hardcore motherfuckers over there now. But you motherfuckers were nothing compared to us when we first came. And they weren't. When we went over, they were scared. When they first told us to come over there, they said, we want to fight CZW now. This was the message I got. We want to fight. And I'm like, fight? What are these motherfuckers talking about? And they said, we want to fight now. And I'm like, all right, let's go fight. And they said, well, we want to see some footage first. They never even seen us. And, then we were young, just starting out, the young boys and all. We sent them over some footage. It was funny. They must have watched the tape. They send back a message. maybe CZW versus CZW first time in Japan, and then and we watched. Then after CZW versus BJW, it was funny because they're like acting like they're these tough, hardcore fucking guys, and we want to fight. And then they watched some film of us, and all of a sudden they didn't want to. And then we did go over, and after we got there and we met them and we all talked, it was fine. We did have some matches, you know what I mean? Nothing real major, hardcore right in the very beginning. But we did our thing, and we had a lot of good times over there doing it. I think it was good business for a long time. Fucking traveling sucked though. God damn, traveling sucked.
Do you think a lot of that jealousy was because you were able to open up that opportunity to guys to go to Japan? You had young guys like Gage at the time went over at 17?
Probably. Nicky started with me at 17 years old when he first came in the building. Yeah.
And it was like these, quote unquote, no-name guys are getting to go over to Japan, but it was all because of how the video thing fell through.
Right.
Do you think that's why, a lot of people, were anti?
Well, the video thing didn't fall through at first. That's what got us over there,
right.
These people wanting to sell our video. These people saw something in the CZW guys. They saw something in the company the same way I was seeing something.
Right.
Maybe not exactly. They were seeing dollar signs. They were thinking, I can make money off of this. You know what I mean? This is good stuff. And that's what got us started over there. It really is. And as far as jealousy, are you talking about other promoters?
Yeah.
Being sour or salty or
right, yeah.
or bad mouthing?
Because once that opened up, you instantly became the, fuck that place.
That was a double-edged sword. Is what the Japan thing was double-edged sword. I don't regret going, even though I never cared about going. I really never cared about going there. I didn't know nothing about it, and when I went, I'll tell you, it was fucking hell at first going over there. Getting used to the traveling and the fucking bus and, and all that. But, I lost my train of thought again.
Double-edged sword.
Oh, the double-edged sword of it was, when I was here in the United States, when I was here home building the CZW, it was close. Everything was tight. If you remember, Mike, I never really flew people in. I never did that. I never used a big WWF star or something or a former star. I just tried to build around our guys, and I didn't fly people in. It was kept neat and tight, and it was all here. It was right at your fingertips, and and it was building. And in my eyes back then, that's what I was doing. I was building, and I used to say I'm building a 20-story building, and that's what it was like. I kept thinking I was a brick at a time. I'm just building and building. And next thing you know, this Japan thing happened, and it was exciting, and it seemed huge and all. But I'll be honest, when I got pulled over to Japan, now I'm on the other side of the world, and things, CZW never stopped.
Right.
But it was neglected. My vision was being neglected, I think, even though things were still being done that I wanted to be done, but I wasn't there. And you know me, sometimes on the fly, right there on the spot, I can make a change, and it's great. And sometimes it's not. I'm not perfect. But you know what I mean? Just not being there and taking my guys away. Sometimes, at times, we have 7 guys over there. So now I got 7 of my, let's say, top guys, and now we're still doing a show over here. And then at the time when I was doing it, to make myself feel better, I would say, well, you know what? We'll build 2 10-story buildings. We'll build up over here in Japan, and we'll build up, back home. We're not going to get to 20, but you know what I mean? It'll still be, because I knew we didn't have the 100% when I wasn't here all the time. So I was thinking, we'll do this. We'll do 2 10-story buildings. It'll be great. It'll work out. But in retro, now thinking about it, it's like it was probably me trying to make me feel better about it. But I know it was being neglected over here, And I see it now, because I think we would have excelled more. And I'll be honest, we missed. When the ECW thing was sliding, that should have been when we soared, and instead we were in Japan, and we were building up in Japan, and CZW suffered. And we missed that point where we should have been all over it here. We should have built it. We should have got all the fans that they had and just ran with it. And instead, I was running around in fucking Japan. So, I don't know. Again, I'm not a genius, and I'm just thinking these things. I don't know if it would have been any better. I don't know if we would have been any bigger or did anything different, but the double-edged sword, yeah, it was great. The guys loved going over there. It gave me stroke in the business.
A lot of stroke.
People wanted to work for CZW because they wanted to go to Japan. Oh, if I get in CZW, Zandy can get me over in Japan. We also had TV for 3 years running. You guys know better than anybody because you had to fucking put it together constantly. That was not that it was huge, but it was the channel ECW was on, and we were on. And we never fucking ran a rerun in 3 fucking years. So we had TV. We got fucking Japan, and now I'm a fucking god to some of these young up and coming kids. And I did try to spread that around where I could get guys over. And as well as I do, I took some people over there that maybe really shouldn't have went over, but I used my stroke to do that. And
you rewarded a lot of guys.
Yeah. But yeah, it was the double-edged sword. It really was. It was great to be there, but it hurt CZW here, and I apologize to everybody that was involved at the time.
Talked about the video. I know the first time we approached you about filming, you're like, nah, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. But you being in Japan kind of like opened up that door for us because over the years, numerous different people kind of like, when you weren't here, okay, this guy's going to kind of take control, you know what I mean, or just run things for a while. And it was one of those shows where you were gone and Zibar's like, come in and film, he'll be fine with it, you know what I mean, and that's kind of like how it opened up the door for us. Mm-hmm. And then the TV thing, how it came about, this is the way I remember the story. We're in Seoul, you go in the back, yep, we got Channel 48, we're doing TV on there. Like, you announced the locker room. And like I go to my guys, I'm like, who's putting the TV together? You know what I mean? And it wasn't even discussed. Yeah, it was like, I think it was like after the show, I'm like, because I went up to you, because I'm like nervous at the point. We were only there a couple months filming. Like, who's putting the TV together? And you're like, you can do it, right? And we were like,
you're thinking I had somebody else front line.
Yeah. It was kind of like.
There was only a couple other people before you that really filmed. I mean, there was like I only
remember
me. One little one, and I had that fucking fruit cup filmed for a while.
But he came in the month before us. He did that really bad ice storm in Delaware. The first time you went to Delaware, the Delaware invasion, because we were supposed to go down for that. You did that like small school show, and it was like ridiculous ice storm. I'm like, we ain't gonna die driving. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe get the film, maybe not get the film. But some of the Mantua history, I guess like you said, you weren't bringing guys in and out. You know what I mean? Like top indie names or whatever. But I think one of the points when you're gone is when Ian and Pondo came in that first time. And I think you were there that night when they came in. The Bloodbath. That was February.
Scissors, right?
Yeah, the February 2000.
Yeah,
2000.
That was Ian and Pondo trying to outdo anything the CZW ever did or ever could do that night. That's what that was. But hey, it was good. It was good for film.
How did the relationship with Pondo start? Was that the first time he came in?
I don't remember. Pondo's a good guy. He's a nice guy. Besides the Japan thing, how he fucking after we left, he was supposed to be with us. You know what I mean? And we all kind of were out of there. And then I think he saw that as his way in to stay in and maybe start helping getting them other people. I don't know if he still does that. I mean, I really don't know. That disappointed me in him. You know what I mean? That he did that. But he's still genuinely an honest guy. Pondo is. He's a real nice guy. I mean, I really don't have anything against him. I really wish he would have stuck by back then because when we left, I didn't want to leave there, to be honest with you.
Right.
I wanted to go back.
It was great. I remember you telling me like stories of like the money you were making at that time. It was
videos were $70 for a VHS.
Right.
I get out of the ring and somebody says, "Oh, Zandig game shirt," and I take and they're like the first time it ever happened to me, they're handing me a brown $100 bill. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I got no change. No, take. Oh fuck, here, take the shirt, $100. Headband, $100, you know. So besides getting paid, there's that kind of stuff after. T-shirts, $40, $50 for a T-shirt, you know. So yeah, the money was good, but I did not want to go back there. You know, what I mean, I wanted to get I don't know what happened. I don't know why he left with the money. I don't know what happened with all that, but I really thought that we'd be able to work it out. But we needed everybody to stay. Unity. Like Pondo should have just listened to me. I've never done anything to hurt the boys. If anybody ever says that, you know what I mean, say it to my fucking face and we'll take it outside, because I've never done anything to hurt the boys. I never take booking fees, which a lot of guys do. I don't fucking do that. I always shoot for food money. I always shot to get them more money. These guys would go work for fucking practically nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was always the...
But I always looked out for the guys, always. When we were in fucking Italy, I had a problem over there with a fucking promoter. He didn't have the fucking money. I belted that motherfucker twice, right in front of everybody. I slapped him across his fucking mouth once. This fucking karate dude, he did one of these square-offs like he's going to fucking do something. I fucking hit him so hard the second time, he just fucking stood there in fucking shock. But all the guys were there, and they knew I was sticking up for them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I got them paid. It was another one of those things where I had to wait to get some money wired, but it got taken care of. But yeah, I did want to go again. I wanted to go back to Japan. I wanted the boys to go back. I'll be honest, I was like done with the whole fucking every month, sometimes twice a month on the plane.
Right.
I did want out. I wanted quarterly, 4 times a year, something like that. And I wanted to keep the boys going. It was a good thing. It was good for the guys. They loved it, you know what I mean? And I really wanted to fucking keep that going. And I don't know if it would have made a difference if Pondo didn't have fucking you did weasel your way in as trying to be fucking boss or whatever, Pondo. I mean, I love you, dude, but, you should have stuck with us. If he would have fucking stuck with us and we just stuck together, I think they would have still got us. Because we were giving them good shit, you know what I mean? The people were loving it, and it was like a back door for them. Oh, well, Pondo will get us guys. So then he started getting guys over. Even some of the CZW guys that were here before Pondo would get over there, you know what I mean? So, but then again, they're fucking sleeping in dojos. They're probably not getting paid as much, so... And I think that still goes on, doesn't it, over there? It's like they're not getting put up.
I don't even think anymore. It's all but totally dried up.
Is it totally
done?
Yeah,
I don't think Pondo's gone in forever and a day.
I'll be honest, like I said, Pondo, he is a good guy. I wouldn't want Pondo to be the one talking for me. You know what I mean? If I had some promoter in another country that owed me fucking money or whatever, I'll be honest, I would rather have me standing there fucking arguing for your money or smacking somebody, you know what I mean, than Pondo. I mean, he's a good guy and he does his fucking thing and he's got fans all over the world, but he ain't the boss. You know what I mean? He wasn't a leader type. I've always been, you know me, Mike.
Right.
I've always been a leader. I've always been a boss. I've always been, as a young kid, I was the older kid. I hung around with older people, but yet people always thought I was the older one or the tough guy. You know what I mean? So, and I use that part of me for the wrestling business. You know what I mean? I don't get excited about slapping some fucking guy, but you know what I mean? And when there's a time somebody needs to get slapped, I'm going to fucking do it, And, or if it's time to fly myself to Japan and go get the guy's fucking money, I'll do that, And again, I don't want to dwell on it, but Pondo should have stuck with us, and we all might still be doing good business over there, or it all could be dried up like it is. I don't know. I'm not a fucking mind reader, but he should have stuck with us,
We're referencing Pondo 2000. A lot of times, 2000, 2001, you're doing heavy tours of Japan. So I want to talk about some of the highlights of late 99, 2000, 2001. One of the key guys that you brought into the company that, is, you're the icon. We'll say he's the icon junior. At that point was Wife Beater. How did that all come? I think it was Matt Martini at the time, originally.
Right.
I think he came in probably through Trent. Is that...
Mm-hmm.
What did you see in him, that differentiated him from the rest of the group?
Probably a man. He was more like a grown man.
The look.
The look. I think he was a former, compared to the other guys, a bunch of young boys up and coming, which is great, which I have no problem with. But it's a matter of, raising them up, watching them grow. And we always needed size. CZW was always a company of mainly smaller guys. I mean, if you think about it, the first ring that I built, I actually built the ring with the ropes 3 inches lower, against the recommendation of Al, I think, because of the guys being smaller. You know, where you see Vince's ring and you see some guys that it's up there almost to their neck. You know what I mean? If you're not
Right.
6'6", but we always had, it was mainly small guys, and I did create the ring smaller to give the illusion that the guys are bigger. And when Wife Beater came along, you didn't have to make no illusions with Wife Beater. You know what I mean?
Right.
Matt was a big guy, intelligent. He listened. You know, he wants knowledge. Matt's one of these guys that sits home and probably watches Discovery Channel, you know, constantly. He's always absorbing knowledge. He's a very intelligent guy. I don't know where this whole thing comes from, but yeah, that's, I think the look, like you said, the look and the size, and very respectful. I wrestled him at an independent show first, him and Max Smack, in Burlington, I think. And he came up and was like shaking my hand, thank you so much. And he said I was like the most professional person that he ever worked with or something like that. Just very respectful, and I took a liking to him right away.
He also had that thing you talked about earlier. Or if he didn't, then he was probably the greatest actor ever, of no fear.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Was he interested in the hardcore, or did you say, you know, I mean, this is more of, if you do this, this is an easier way to make money, market yourself, or?
I never told anybody it was a way to make money. Never told anybody to do hardcore.
Talking about never making guys do hardcore.
Yeah, I never made anybody do anything. I asked, I don't tell. Wife Beater, I think the first hardcore thing he did with me, if I can remember, was a first blood match, I believe. And did he hit me with a chair, or I hit him with a chair, or somebody hit me with he hit me. Whatever it was, this is it's fucked up. It's a first blood match. If a guy who bleeds first loses.
Right.
Well, Wife Beater hit me with a chair, and usually when he hits me with a chair, it's on the flat. The chair was flipped around backwards in the metal edge, and pow on top of my head, and I hit the freaking mat. And I think Wife Beater might have got hit by Just In Case maybe or something at the same time, and I think he hit the mat. But in the meantime, I wasn't supposed to be bleeding. And I'm laying on the mat, and I feel blood coming from my head. I'm going, oh, shit. And I'm, like, hoping that Matt gets up with blood on his face because, you know, that's supposed to be what's going to happen. And but that was the first hardcore thing that I think that he did, was just some chair shot. And I remember him saying, oh, I'm so sorry. Nobody ever taught me how to swing a chair, he said.
Right.
So Matt never even swung a chair, you know what I mean, before and look where he went to, you know what I mean, swinging everything, getting hit with everything and anything. But I never asked him, I don't think. I think he's a former Marine, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think it was easy for him. It was kind of like me. We come from different places, but, I mean, Marines are usually tough, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think he had that toughness in him, and I think he did what worked for him. You know what I mean? I think it's what he did. I think he did what worked for him.
During that time, since you were out so often, who kind of ran the day-to-day operations for you? Was it Meat doing a lot of it at that time?
Meat was my web guy, probably was my go-to guy, you know. And then I guess he would translate, but, you know, to everybody. I'm trying to think. You know, it was like Lobo was the head guy, like in charge if I wasn't there. Lobo was, I think, did he do one tour in Japan? I think he only went one time. So he was always home. Lobo's job didn't allow him to be able to leave. Like a lot of the other guys. So he was kind of like the in-charge guy, you know what I mean? He was the head. Not that he was making up storylines or you know, whatever, but he was like supposedly me when I wasn't there. Most of the stuff was, you know, from my mouth to probably Mead, and then, you know, because he was more my contact guy, you know. And then I'm trying to think if there was, when did we with Booker meetings and stuff like that, when I had different people, what year was that? Wasn't that back in that time?
See, I wasn't doing any
nothing at that time.
No, not until like 2002.
We did have, because we had some sit downs where, you know, instead of just being me, we would sit down, and I can remember Max Smack sitting there. I remember Wife Beater,
Cashmere.
Yeah, I'd rather not mention, but him and maybe some other ones, we would sit and we would talk like in a group about everything. So it wasn't just me. It was kind of coming different, different. Everybody kind of had an idea of what was going on. And so I think it was really, I'll tell you what it was. I think it was a joint effort on everybody when I wasn't here, just pulling things together. Right. And it was the few mainstream, that 5 or 6 guys, you know what I mean, that kind of just kept everything going the best that they could, you know what I mean?
One of the pinnacle events from that time, the first Cage of Death. Where did the idea, the Cage of Death, come from? Or just... What did you envision going into that?
Just something. There's always been cage matches, you know what I mean? But I just wanted something that was totally off the wall, something nobody's ever seen before. It was like Justice Pain and Lobo feud. It was like, you know what I mean? It had to be something really
climax.
Crazy. And I think that's really, I guess I was always trying to, you have to outdo, I think, you know what I mean? Or you always got to raise the bar. You got to, especially back then, we had to get recognized, you know?
Right.
And I think that's all part of it. I mean, I'll be honest, I went to a fence company in the area in Mantua and asked them if I could go look at their junk that they had out back. And they says, yeah, and I went out back, and I said, and I told them what I was doing. I said, I'm building this cage thing for a wrestling match. And they says, yeah, go ahead, take what you want. And I went out back, and just looking at the stuff, it kind of like, okay, well, if I take this and put it here and take that and put it there, that was kind of where the actual structure came from, you know what I mean? And I think that we did the light tubes on in that match, if I remember that?
Yep.
Big mistake. Light tubes are bad as it is, big mistake. Because at the end of that match, Lobo and Justice Pain, they could hardly see. And I think it's, with it being on, with that dust burst in there, it did something to their eyes. Because, I mean, it was like to the point they were almost like crying in the back. Their eyes were hurting so bad. So that was a little over the top with the on light tubes, which I haven't done since.
And that was, I remember that night of like, it was almost like the foreshadowing of the Cage of Death setup, because we were all inside, and then we all had to leave and stand in the.
That was part of my thing. I wanted I wanted everybody out because we had to do some welding.
Oh my God, yeah!
And I wanted everybody to hear some banging and the bzz, bzz, and see the sparks going on, and just get that while you're out there. It's like just waiting, like, oh man, what is this? What's going to be? What's going to be? What's it going to be? And I'll be honest, when you, probably with the rest of people, when you walk back through the old black plastic that we had there probably, everybody was chanting CZW before there was even a match. And, I never planned that chant thing. It wasn't like, ECW, everybody chant ECW. I never planned it, but they just did it. And it was like just looking at the cage. So at that point, it almost didn't even matter if the match was great because they loved the look of the cage so much, you know what I mean? They were chanting.
What was the intermission that night? Like, it was over an hour, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was ridiculous. We're like, man, we got like a 2-hour drive home. Like, what the?
3 hours.
Yeah. Like, what?
Everything we do takes longer than it's supposed to. Never start on time.
Like, what the hell is going on?
But then if you know, again, with the cage, with that one, then it's like, oh, how do you top it? You know what I mean? It's like the finishing moves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I blamed ECW before.
Right.
Well, they're no to blame anymore. Now it's just us. Now we have to keep outdoing ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's now, what are we going to do with the cage this time? And what are we going to do with the cage this? So every year Cage of Death comes around, you're like, how am I going to friggin' afford this one? Or what am I going to come up with? And a lot of different people say things and come up with ideas, and well, not a lot, but there's a few key people that always come up with some good stuff, and you take your own stuff and you take their stuff and you try to put it together, but we're always trying to outdo like that first cage.
Right. Of the different variations, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. What was your favorite setup of the?
I think suspended was, and the reason, and almost it was great, that part, but the fact that they hung me twice, that they suspended me with the hooks, which was one of the worst ideas I've ever had live, because I did it.
I disagree.
I did it at a remote place.
Right, the first time.
And it was like an interrogation thing going on, and they hung me, and it was I mean, they beat the shit out of me. You know
Right.
what I mean? And then when I came and then I did it live, it was just, I mean, at the time, people were chanting. They were, like, loving it. And I was hanging up there, and I was bloody, and I was hung, and I was kind of looking, and I was seeing cheers and CZW chants. But the longer I hung there, I just, all of a sudden, they were getting quiet. And I was seeing people's mouths hanging open. I was seeing people, like, doing this. And then I heard there was people crying. And
Vomiting.
People throwing up. And I'm like, wow. And we purposely, I says, don't get me down until everybody's out. I wanted everybody out of bed. And I literally got to the point where I didn't even want to look. I couldn't hear anything. I didn't see anything. I just kept my eyes shut, and I just hung there. And they eventually, they got me down, and I remember them getting me down, and I remember kind of going down to the ground and just stayed there with my eyes shut. I'm like, are they all out? Is everybody out? And yeah, and finally I opened my eyes. And when I opened up, it was like, it was empty. Everybody was gone. And it was like, it was really, to me, I thought I did what needed to be done. And a lot of people said, oh, that wasn't wrestling. It wasn't wrestling. It was a fucking angle. It was a build-up to Cage of Death, suspended. For you people who still never came back and never got it, they hung me, they suspended me, so I suspended a cage from the fucking ceiling, which wound up being one of the greatest matches probably anybody would ever fucking see, if you see the bumps in it. That was some fucking... Oh, how about Ian Knox with the fucking... Was it a super kick or a Kuza kick?
Woo!
Fucking one table. Oh, God. Young people. It's amazing what these young guys will do to get...
Yeah. Not to jump ahead, but on that angle, at that time, that was when the Athletic Commission said to us going into that show, you know what I mean, you can do anything you want that night. Remember? And we were like, all right, we can do whatever. Mm-hmm. And 2 days before... That's when they said, "Oh no, you can't do anything." You know what I mean? Like they dangled the carrot of like we were under the understanding that night going in that we can do light tubes. Remember?
Right.
And then I'm not going to mention the athletic commissioner since he's still around. Said, "No, John, you can't do that."
Right.
And then that's where we just said, "Let's do the hanging thing." And we knew it was, but we promoted on the TV all that time, like.
Right.
It's going to be the craziest thing you've ever seen. It's going to be the way it used to be, and
it still wound up being crazy without light tubes and stuff like that. I mean, what happened was big bumps. Now the big bumps is more dangerous. That's the scary part about that.
Right.
I'd rather get smacked in the head with a light tube or across the back with a wad of light tubes than have to take a DVD off the top of the cage. You know what I mean? Through a table onto the concrete floor. But, I mean, we all do it. But, I mean, that night, if you think back how many big bumps there were in that thing, I mean, I think Dewey's still walking funny since that, since the DVD, the double DVD.
Yeah, last night somebody joked about, oh, Dewey, you need to take one off the cage tonight. He's like, no.
I think that's an under talked about bump. Like, when I hear people talk about bumps, that's one of the biggest bumps of all times, I think. That double DVD, and if you see the way they barely hit the tables, it was huge. But, that was probably, I think that was my favorite. Who else was that? Oh, we had that fucking...
You had New Jack
in there. That was the biggest mistake of the friggin' of the match, but that'll be on another segment.
Going back to 99-2000, there was the talk of the pay-per-view. It was going to be at the Electric Factory. Mm-hmm. I think it was... Who was the backer on that for the pay-per-view that you're going to do the Electric?
ADV Films?
No. Hardcore Wrestler Japan. I just can't. His name.
Oh, Onita.
Onita, yeah.
Well, Onita was ADV was involved with this.
Okay.
Still, they were still involved.
Still involved.
Right. They were going to be the sponsor or put the money up for it. They were looking for some huge international thing to make it be popular in two different places, and they contacted Onita. I didn't contact him personally, although they flew me in to meet with him. I flew over there, sat with him, and talked about what we were going to do. And actually, we decided on he wanted Terry Funk. Onita asked to have Funk involved. I believe he worked me before. I think he was comfortable because he didn't know who I was. You know what I mean? At this point, I'm sure he knows who the fuck I am now. You fucking prick. But he didn't know who I was back then, and so we had to get Terry, and we did. We contacted him. He did agree to a price to do the show, and for some reason I've heard him make comments saying he was never contacted or never agreed, which it's bullshit because he was. But yeah, we were supposed to do this big pay-per-view event. It was going to be exploding barbed wire match, the whole
Right.
bit. There was glass cage of death. It was going. We were going to do the whole ring, which $6,000 worth of fucking glass. Thanks, Anita. That we bought for this big cage match we were going to do. Well, I don't know why. I have no idea why this happened, but I was in Japan, and I get a call from home, somebody telling me, yo, Onita canceled the pay-per-view. I'm like, what are you talking about? He canceled. They said, yeah, he fucking canceled the pay-per-view. It must have been on the internet and somebody up here seen it. Here it was in the fucking newspaper down there. This motherfucker canceled. Nobody even told us. I'm over here in Japan doing my thing, expecting to get done and come home and do this pay-per-view, and, he canceled. I don't know why. I don't even remember why. All I know it was just jerked off the way he did it. And then we came home, and, they said it couldn't be done. We
Right.
called that the pay-per-view because a lot of people, they say, oh, CZW can't do a pay-per-view. They can't do this, or they ain't going to pull off the kind of shit that we were going to do and all that. And so we called. They said it couldn't be done. It wasn't a pay-per-view, but we just did a good hardcore show that probably a lot of people never forget. And, that's right. We did some explosions right on the barbed wire.
Right.
Because that's what it was. Like, nobody really ever did the explosions. Wasn't as big as what we would have liked it to be, because at this point, AD Films backed out and didn't want to put
Right.
no money into it because, Onita backed out. Now we're here once again. I'm stuck trying to pull off this fucking show. And we did the best that we could. You know what I mean? It wasn't a big pay-per-view. It wasn't a huge exploding barbed wire match, but we did the best that we could. And, I think it came off all right, as usual. You know what I mean?
And that was probably the first time that you did a ton of tubes. You know what I mean?
There was 200. That was the first time that was the first 200 light tube match, I think.
Right.
And wow, we went back to Japan the next day, 6 o'clock the next morning. We're on a plane to go back to Japan. Wife beater had 30-something stitches in them in different spots, like all in different spots, because him and Nikki did the 200 light tube match.
Mm-hmm.
And we flew. Where did we fly into that time? I think we usually flew into Tokyo. We flew into Osaka, I think. Yeah, that's what it was, Osaka. And we're like, what the fuck are we going here for? Because we never know. We just get on a plane and go. And we're landing there, and then we get on in one of these little buses, and they're driving, a little van, really, and we're driving down the road, and we're like, where's the hotel? Where's the hotel? And this young boy, a Japanese dude, we don't understand what the hell he's saying. We're like, soon, like hotel soon, we just flew all the way here.
Right.
Plus everybody's beat up from the night before the show. We're driving down the road in this van, and all of a sudden, here's fucking Yamakawa in the middle of the fucking street with his fucking cowboy hat on and his pleather fucking white pants, flagging us down, going like this. They took us right to a fucking show. It was already underway. We were so late getting there. They're telling us to hurry up and get dressed and do. We got matches. Thank God for me, it was easy. I didn't have a whole match. I had more like a little beat down, like a setup thing going on. White beater was in the main event. All cut up, still bleeding, patches of blood all over coming through the shirt. And so we did that, said it couldn't be done, flew the fuck over there, did this friggin' thing. White beater that night got a stinger because Homa tried to give him this friggin' tombstone thing off the ropes through one of those desks. They're not even tables. And he got a stinger, so that hurt him for the rest of the tour, really, in his neck. And we get done the match. Don't they put us on a fucking bus and drive 10 hours back to fucking Yokohama? That was probably the longest couple days, for the guys.
Yes.
I mean, to get beat up after that show, and then, oh man, it was rough. It was really rough.
Did you ever have any problems getting back on the plane after any of that? You know what I mean? Or
What do you mean?
From doing the hardcore, going in all cut up, ever stop, question, or
no? I mean, you get eyeballs looking at
Right.
you sometimes, but I mean, you go get cleaned up, you throw a Band-Aid on or whatever. But
good to go.
Trust me, every on the flights, they all knew we were wrestlers. There was no getting around that. You know what I mean? It was because they did see the scars and the bumps and the bruises and all that stuff. So never no problems.
Another big event that year, Cage of Death 2 After Dark. Why start it so late? You know what I mean? It tended, you know what I mean? Because that night.
It was the show. I mean, we had to do it. You know what I mean? It ran late. We had to do it. And I'll be honest with you, I thought it was a cool thing when all the cars turned the lights on. It turned out to be a pretty cool thing.
Right.
I don't even know if I would do it any other way. You know what I mean? I mean, after dark. It worked. It worked. But, Who was up here for that? Did we have any Japanese in for that show or no? No?
I can't remember.
Was that me? Was that Lobo and Payne? Again? Was it them again?
Yeah.
You don't remember? Is that who it was?
Yeah, I think.
But I think I got involved with that somehow. I think we were both involved with that. 'Cause for some reason, I remember a picture on the cover of like the Philadelphia News, like a big page, and this Lobo was cutting my head with a light tube. And I thought that was from that, if I remember right. But yeah, the whole light thing, it was kind of cool.
It was turning it up a notch, like you always said,
Right.
and it just led to next thing.
Right.
Around that time, you were able to start bringing the Big Japan guys coming over. Was that something the office paid for, or was that kind of like, well, you're bringing my guys over, I'm going to bring some of your guys over. How does that start?
No, Japan never paid for anybody to come over here. We did that. There was no ABV wasn't involved with that. Big Japan wasn't involved with that. We paid for the guys to come over here. What made it easier for us, if I remember right, was probably frequent flyer miles, because we never had a ton of money.
Right.
We used our miles, I think, to get them over here, if I remember. That's because when I flew, so I used to have like millions of miles. And I would use some of the boys' miles, and I would pay them. I'd give them like $100 or $150 to use their miles to get a ticket. So that would help. And I think that's what we did probably to fly them guys over. So I think we did that with Winger at one point, too. We had
Right,
him here.
for best of the best,
Kasai
too.
we had here, and so
Yamakawa.
Yeah.
Kasai. We'll jump a little bit ahead, like on Effin' Believable, April of 2001. When he came in, did you think it was going to be that crazy, the Uneffin' show?
No, it went a little over the top. Was that our last time there? No, we had one more after that. We got thrown out of that building, I believe.
Right. I think we got thrown out of there in May.
Yeah, the next time.
The stretched in Smyrna.
I don't remember. Did we call the show on Effin' Believable before or after?
I think afterwards.
After,
It was,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, it was wild. Again, with Kasai, you talk about Kasai. Kasai in Japan was a young boy, what they call him, or a green boy. Wasn't a big star. Nobody really cared. He was one of the main ones setting the ring up and setting chairs up and everything else. Not that most of the Japanese all help a little bit, but Kasai was like, he'd be driving us.
Right.
He'd be at the airport picking us up, and then he's setting the ring up. He would, he'd be friggin' polishing your boots if you asked him to. That's the way he was. But that Kasai, when he came over here doing that match, that was him making his name in the United States. You know what I mean? He did what he had to do. But that kid's always had something. I mean,
right.
I don't know if I ever told you about the time we went over for a tag team tournament, and me and Nikki were supposed to be tag team partners, Gage, and there was a screw up on Nikki's visa. We all went up to New York together, and we got like 6-month visas, and for some reason they stamped Nikki's wrong, and you never noticed 3 months.
Right.
Well, we get to the airport, and they grab him and take him in the interrogating room and say he's not allowed in Japan. And we're like, what are you talking about? And I went in arguing as usual, like I said, when I looked out for the boys, I went in. They threw me out of the room. Had to got a hold of Kajika or something. Kasai shows up. He comes in. Nicky didn't even have a dime in his pocket. He had no money for nothing. Kasai came in, talked to in Japanese to the cops or whatever they are over there at the airport, and they wouldn't let it. Like sometimes they'll be lenient, let it go. They wouldn't let him go. So they wound up locking him up in this like minimum security hotel prison thing with a cop in the hallway. And next day they put him back on a plane and sent him home. So I came to Japan with no tag team partner. So at the show the next night, I sit down. I got Kojika and Yamakawa and I think Terry Boy, right? Yeah. They're asking me, boss, who you want for a tag team partner? We have to make a partner. And I'm like, I said, Kasai. And they looked at me, Kasai? Why Kasai? I says, big heart, Kasai, big heart. I said, he's good. And they're like, oh, no good. And Kajika's like, no, wow. Yamakawa, Shad WX. I says, Kasai. And they're like, I mean, they were like literally shaking their head, like, "Are you kidding me? You want the young green boy?" Because it was, again,
Right.
I
You
seen
it.
something in him,
The diamond.
and he was, and he became a tag team partner, and I gave him I do the Skid Row music, and Skid Row has the fucking monkey, whatever the monkey music. I gave him the monkey music. I said, "This is perfect for you. You got to use this music." And next thing you know, with the tail and the friggin' the goggles and everything, it just excelled. Next thing you know, he's like, the big star over there for him, And coming here didn't hurt either, like that,
right.
Like that match he had here, like I said. But yeah, he was.
It made him a star here,
yeah,
for sure.
He was a great. He was a great kid. I mean, he really was. I mean, he still is. Obviously I don't see him anymore.
Did you ever try and get him back after that? Since he was.
Well, you know what? I think there's been talk a couple times, you know what I mean? But the schedule's never right, because he's like an independent now. He considers himself.
Right.
So the schedule was never right, It seems that way with all of them, because I know the young kid over there, Ito, stepped up to the plate, which I think he's married to the Yuki, the referee girl now.
Right.
He was like a Rick Blade. He was like a flippy, kind of high-flying type of guy. And then I think after CZW left, when I left and all that, I think a void needed to be filled. And thumbs up to Ito, because I think he stepped up to the plate. From what I understand out of everybody, because I get a lot of feedback, or used to, I don't as much now, how that kid just fucking tore it up. I heard he's scarred up fucking head to toe, right?
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I've tried to reach out to get him to come over here when I heard about how he transformed into this, this hardcore icon, But and I just never had, it's never worked out. Like time-wise, it's just never worked. I have tried to get some of them guys back over, but it just hasn't worked. But yeah, thumbs up to him, because from what I understand, they definitely needed something, and I think he was their, he was a step up to the plate guy,
Yeah, he definitely, just his body's a mess.
That's what I hear. Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
And he had nothing. There was nothing on him before. He was another one. He was another Kasai, another young boy. But he had Rick Blade moves, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then he incorporates this friggin' hardcore with it. I mean, God, he's got to be off the hook,
Yeah. The 2001 ECW is dead, so now it's early 2001. You start bringing in like some of the ex-ECW guys. How did that all come about? And were you for that, against it? Like, you had the Balls Mahoney here, the little Guido there, the different guys. Like, where was that direction coming from? Were you trying to?
I'll tell you exactly what it was. It was, which I didn't know this word, rub, back then.
Right.
But it was more getting these guys that supposedly had more experience, because my guys obviously didn't have a lot of experience. We were home trained, worked out together, worked each other. You remember Chris and Nikki could work a match together and it would be great, but then put them in a match with somebody else and it may not be as great because they didn't work together all the time. And the theory of any of these guys that I brought in was to make my guys better. It really was. That was the original thing. It was never, and if you know me and if you remember, there's times when one of these guys would come in, I wouldn't even advertise them. It wasn't like they were advertised to draw people, because I never relied on that. And I'm not saying that's a good business thing or smart, but I always tried to rely on our own thing, our guys. And I would bring guys like that in as a surprise. And people are like, oh, why the fuck wouldn't you advertise him? Well, it's not what it's about. You know what I mean? It's about my guys, And that's really what it was. It was about getting them the rub, to work with more experienced guys and stuff like that. And it always didn't work out, obviously, because Balls Mahoney turned out to be a fucking piece of shit. That's another fucking segment. And some other ones. Guido was here, right? You said?
Right, I think he worked Burke.
Yeah, he was okay. He was respectful, but they also, a lot of them guys, the head's a little big. Sometimes they want too much money, or they want to come in and demand what they're going to do or what they're not going to do, which I had a problem with the little fucking dude with the glasses with the tape one time. I don't even think he worked.
Spike Dudley.
Yeah, that kid. He comes in and he's like, oh, I'm not doing that, or I'm not doing this. I said, well, then fucking go home. Give this kid car money, you know what I mean? And I don't think it ever even worked, No,
but he didn't.
I've had problems like that. That was probably the worst. I don't think I ever had anybody that came and just actually, and I actually had to say fucking leave, except, well, then the one rotten kid, the other one that fucking bailed out before his match.
Axel.
Yeah, he actually fucking bailed out the back door before his match happened. And I'll be honest, I think he watched the match before his match and said, fuck this. I can't top this. In my opinion, bud, that's what I think happened. You got fucking scared. And he fucking went out the fucking back door. not to change the subject, but, so it wasn't always a good move bringing these people in from the outside. I really liked relying on my own guys. Your core men are your main thing, and you never know what you're going to get when you bring some outsider in, whether it's an old New York talent or Atlanta talent or ECW, whatever. You just don't know. You don't know what you're going to get.
At that time, you're also bringing in a bunch of new guys. Who was doing some of the scouting for you? At that time, the SATs come in, different guys. I know Mondo probably sat and watched 6 or 8 shows before you finally used them. He was one of those guys who.
You know how I found Mondo? Somebody else sent me a wrestling tape. Is actually how I seen Mondo, and they were sending me a tape to look at them. And I seen this kid, and I went, wow, who's this one? This is the one. And the SATs was a tape, and it was somebody else sent a tape, again, the same thing, and there was this redheaded kid in there doing some shit, and I remember saying, that's the one, that's the kid right there, But as far as scouting, there was never scouts per se. But you know me, you've told me about. You're out way more than I am, Mike. You got Smart Mark is out everywhere, so your eyes are everywhere, and you've recommended a lot of people over the years, and some work and some didn't. And that's just the way it goes. Again, with the tapes, though, there was always tapes coming in, and,
because at that time, 2001 was Briscoes, Ruckus. You know what I mean? It was just
Well, Ruckus was part of a ring crew.
For the December, for that January show in Delaware, was it?
No, more than once up here.
Oh,
even up here at Champs.
Whipwreck's ring. Weren't you using Dennis Whipwreck's ring at the time?
Maybe.
It was a red canvas.
Was it red? Yeah, red canvas. I think so. And Ruckus was. He would come up with the ring crew, and he asked me something about working, and I forget what I said. I said something, kid, get me a tape kit or something like that. I don't know. And then eventually somebody seen him, and they told me that he ran up the wall and did some backflip or something like that. And I said, we'll give him a try, And then eventually I did, and, he's still around.
Right. Yeah, I remember the first time we heard about him, oh, you gotta see this kid. He's, at that time, what was he, 240?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, well, they say 300 pounds. I don't think he was ever 300.
No,
but
I mean, he was
a short little fat guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's he can do all these flips. I'm like, bullshit. You know what I mean? And we saw him in a show in somewhere West Virginia. Martinsburg, West Virginia. I think it might have been him and Frazier at the time.
Right.
And we were just we walked out and what the fuck was that? You know what I mean?
Ruckus is a talent. What the problem with CZW at Ruckus is, not that it's a problem, but you could say Ruckus is stale if you watch him. It's not that he's stale. It's just that we're in the same market.
Right.
It's over and over in Philly, and you can only do so much. And Ruckus always, over the years, was always trying to add something new to his thing. And he was, you got to see this new thing I'm doing. And he has done that, but he's done it so much. How much can you do? I mean, there's only so many things you can do. And I wish that CZW was on a national thing where we're in different states every weekend, because he would be, Ruckus is great, but he would be so much more over. And just to get him out there more, you know what I mean? And I know he wrestles other places, and and I'm sure he gets better responses in other places, because to us it's like
razzle dazzle,
seen it, yeah. But I mean, in reality, it's still wow, you know what I mean? And that's other guys. That's other people too. Have the same thing with CZW. I mean, we always kept it small. Never had the money to really take it big. I mean, we went international, and we did all that stuff. But as for in a whole United States, I've seen more countries than I've seen states. You know what I mean, with the wrestling business.
Right. I mean, 2001 was probably the most shows you did out of any years, because we were doing the Froggy Wednesday nights. Mm-hmm. You want to get into some of those stories, how that all went bad?
I don't even remember. I know there were some things broken down.
Yeah, I think that's what it just turned into. The sold shows on what did we do, 2 or 3?
Yeah, it wasn't many. Yeah.
And then the last one is we ended up going through the wall or whatever, and the guy just
go in to collect the money, and it's we got to get this for the wall. Yeah, it didn't work out.
Yeah,
that place was too small anyway.
Oh my God, that was the hardest place.
The best thing I can remember there is when we had Tommy Dreamer down there,
Right.
and
Kasai was in
Kasai
that.
was here also.
Yeah, it was probably April 7th, I think, or somewhere in that
You know
ballpark.
better than me. It was probably April 4th because
Yeah,
Tommy
April
Dreamer was
4th.
singing Happy Birthday because it was my
Yeah,
birthday.
yeah.
But I remember him being up there on the microphone, and he says, "This shit blows ECW out of the water." I don't know if you remember when we first started TV,
We
put
used
that
that.
on. We
Yeah.
used that. Yeah, and that was the best thing that ever came out of that because Tommy was like, the face of ECW. You
Right.
know what I mean? He was that guy. And I think he's still that guy for, where
Right.
he's working now for certain people. But, yeah, he when he said that, it was a compliment. You know what
Right.
I mean? It was like, you guys are doing it. Because he said to me at one time, too, he said that, he says, you guys are doing the kind of shit that we should have been doing. Like we were supposed to be extreme, you know what I mean?
Right.
Which they were.
Right.
But it was that time, you know what I mean? And then we came along and, we just hardcore, extreme, ultra violence. We just made
Right.
a little more, but everything changes with times. You know what I mean? There's no more just riding a bicycle. You know what I
Right.
mean? I used to ride wheelies. I used to count telephone poles. When I'd ride wheelies on a bike, how many poles I could go, and I thought that was the coolest shit going. These motherfuckers is jumping, doing back flips and twists and everything else. You know what I mean? So it's just everything progresses and everything gets more. So I don't knock ECW for what they did because they had a great thing and a lot of good talent came out of there. But you ain't not even close as fucking extreme as the shit that we do. But again, it's just because things progress and you have to do more. So
That year marked one of your marquee events for the first time, Best of the Best.
mm-hmm.
What was the idea behind that?
I think I'm going to say that with everybody thinking that all we do is the hardcore stuff, I think that was kind of a way to showcase that we do more than just the hardcore stuff. And if you notice, CZW's roster's always been a bunch of juniors anyway. You know what I mean? So it was pretty easy to do it. You use same guys do hardcore. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them could do the regular stuff too. And I think that's what it was. I think it was a way to showcase the guys, show more that we can do more than just, hardcore.
You have Winner in for that. That was you bringing. Was that as a thank you to the office putting him over?
I think
More of a smart business move,
you know what?
Just
it had nothing to do with anybody's office. It had to do with Winger. Winger is a good guy. He's very respectful. He would do anything for anybody. He speaks. I don't want to say was it Mexican. I don't
Spanish.
know Spanish. He speaks Spanish, English, Japanese. He's like talking our spots with other people, and then when the Mexicans over there, he's over there with the Mexicans talking the Japanese. I mean, he was like. It's just a good guy, and he's worrying about everybody, not just himself. He didn't have to be like that, I mean, just very polite, and I thought I thought he was a good talent too. He was a good-looking kid. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He could work, and I think that's why it was. I mean, there was no other reason. I never did anything for. You say the office,
right?
Yeah, there was never
never a dictation.
I never brought anybody over here like they said. Oh, could you bring them or would you bring them?
Right.
It was never nothing like that. I chose who I wanted and I brought who I wanted.
Okay.
And that's the way. I guess that's the way that was. I would always wanted Homa. I don't want to go in about a whole long thing about him, but I think he's the best friggin' dude ever out of friggin' Big Japan over there. But I always wanted to get him over here, but that just never panned out. And he wound up going all Japan. I don't know if he's still there or what, but no. But I would have loved to have him over here. He was a great worker. He did the hardcore, and he could go out there and run spots with Trent Acid when Trent Acid was Trent Acid.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then go in there and do a friggin' ultraviolet match with me. You know what I mean? And they would both be off the hook. That was a good thing about Loma. But never got him over here.
June 2001, you do the first TV taping, take one. What was your vision? What were your goals on TV at that point?
I didn't have a clue. We got it. I don't know how we got it. We paid for it. I mean, it was never free, but it was cheap. I'll be honest, or we wouldn't have been on it. And I think I just went with it. And then I think I put the ball in you. I just put it on you. It was like,
Right.
you know, all right, I got the TV. Now you guys got to put it together. And
Right.
I'm like computer illiterate. I don't know nothing about computers and cameras and all that stuff. These guys do. And I think I just got the TV and put it in your lap and said, run with it, you know what I mean, and hope that it all would work out good.
Right.
And obviously it did all right. I mean, it ran for 3 years, until the channel went religious.
Right.
That's what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what changed.
Never
it.
a rerun. That's a lot of TV shows, you know what I mean?
It was 160 some, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember.
I think there might have been one rerun, but I think they screwed up.
Right near the end.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they didn't want to play. They said they didn't want to play whatever it was, but what was on the episode was all the stuff we were highlighting the weeks coming up to it. It was
Right.
It was already seen. That's what
Yeah,
it
it
was.
was already
They played
seen.
something different.
Yeah. I know we had differences, disagreements on the TV. What do you feel was the big success of the TV, and what was the biggest failure? This is where you can shit on me. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. I mean, I don't think there was ever enough time
Right.
put into the TV. And I think there wasn't enough time in the TV because there wasn't enough money to put that kind of time into a TV. It costs a lot of money to put together an hour show. I mean, it really does. And we didn't have it. I mean, you guys did what you can do just to get it out there and get it on TV. And I didn't spend enough time saying, Mike, we should do this, or Mike, we should do that, change this, change that. Like, there you hear stories of Paulie with ECW supposedly sometimes spent the whole weekend in a hotel room somewhere with TV equipment putting a TV show together. And they said he would change it. He would take the back match and put it to the front match and just spent hours and hours and hours. And ECW, they created their niche from TV, you know,
Right.
not between selling stuff, getting angles over, and, it was exciting. And we never spent that time. Myself, I'm not going to blame you. I'm going to blame
Right.
me. I never put that time into it. And I know in my head probably what I wanted or what it should have been. Not that I'm a genius, because I'm not, you motherfuckers. And now you are. And then I don't think you guys weren't making no kind of money. It was costing you money. You know what I mean? And then hope that we would sell tapes to make
Right.
the money back to do it. So you couldn't spend the time to do it, to edit things the way, other people do and add things in. And remember when we had Pancos got involved with things, he did a lot of the bells and whistles, which I
Right.
call it. I know you hate that, Mike, but the bells and whistles, you know what I mean? Mike was into that stuff.
Right.
And when he added some of that, it was cool and all, you know what I mean? But, we all needed to be together and all in a fucking room somewhere. And
Yeah. And a lot
Mike
of times,
was over here, you're over there, and I'm over here. It's
Yeah.
like being in 3 different, parts of the state, you know what I mean? And so it just, I don't think there was ever enough time put into it.
yeah.
you know?
I mean, I think that looking back at it, that was always like, sometimes we were doing a show Saturday, and we had to have stuff from that Saturday show in Philly by Tuesday for TV. You know what I mean? It was like, there was maybe never enough content to build up
Right,
that
right.
space cushion of time.
And that's where, if you remember, that's where, not to change, still on the same subject, that's where our shows wound up being like these long 4-hour shows. Because we were trying to get a month's worth of TV out of one thing. And that was a mistake. That hurt. TV hurts the shows. When we made the shows that long, people would get tired. They lose you get tired. You're not excited anymore. And then the guys go out to work, and you're over 3 hours into a show. These people don't want to clap, you know what I mean? So it was bad for everybody. But in theory, it was good, you know what I mean? But
Right.
we were trying to
Get enough content.
we were trying to do stuff that big companies do, and we were just this little pea, you know what I mean? But, I mean, everybody worked hard and tried, and we all did the best we could, I think,
The main event on that Take One show resulted in Blade jumping off. How high was that goddamn wall? 28 feet?
Probably getting close to it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And breaking his leg. What was that like for you, losing, for the first time, one of your key first core guys?
It was bad. It was hard. It was real hard. What even made it harder was I think Blade blamed the company or blamed me partially for the way he got hurt. one thing that was done there that was wrong, and a lot of the bumps that CZW happen in CZW, I oversee. I know kind of what's coming. Not everything, but anything big. Anytime you've ever seen any kind of big bumps in CZW, I kind of know what's going on, and I try to make it as safe as possible. Yes, we're really fucking busting through tables or whatever we're going through, and it hurts. But you try to do things as safe as possible. And you know me, Mike. I'm always about safety, even though it's crazy and I do some crazy shit. But you always want stuff to be safe. One thing about that, and this is probably nobody even has ever, obviously not on tape because I never said it, but when Blade set those tables up, it was a miscommunication, which happens a lot in the wrestling business. When you tell somebody something. Or when it goes from me to you to somebody else, it gets lost in translation, and then we're looking at a match and we're going, what the fuck is going on? Well, Blade was supposed to use 2 tables on that bump. They were supposed to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
He put them like this.
Right.
And when he hit that swanton, there was nothing to happen except what happened. Fucking flip forward and, he broke his leg. But if the tables were like this, he would have did the swanton and the top of them would hit here and his other legs would hit the other table.
Right.
And that would have never happened. And that's a miscommunication because I said 2 tables and I wanted them like this. And he put them like that. And that's how he got hurt. And that even made it worse because it was like I probably didn't say, look, set the 2 tables up, like this. And I just assumed, because when that was going on, I'm going, what the fuck is he doing? Because didn't he have to put Nikki on top of the tables to boot? Yeah. And it was like, how are you going to put...
Yeah, because he was underneath, wasn't he?
I don't know.
Wasn't Gage
he probably
in between that time? I can't remember.
He probably was. I don't remember, but I remember thinking, how are you going to get him on the fucking table if he's got it up top like that? And I'm not saying this to try to make it look like, he got hurt and I hated it. And me and him didn't talk for a long time. And I really think I don't know if he blamed me or blamed the company or what. But there was a little bit of bad talk from him at one point. And then he did come back later on. He did do a little bit of stuff for us. But I think at that point his better years were, were behind him. But that was horrible. I mean, it's we talked about Winger before. In Japan, Rick, we did a move. It was a 3-way move. I was doing a spinning power bomb on Winger, and Nikki grabbed the head, I guess like a diamond cutter type of thing, and I did a sit out. Nikki takes his back bump, and Blade was springboarding for the leg drop. And I remember Blade saying, where do you want him? Well, we said, where do you want him? He said, don't matter, I can hit it wherever. We did the fucking move. Blade came up, and he landed flat, and he was between my legs because I just hit him with the power bomb. So I was like right there. And Blade just landed flat on his face, and I looked, and you could see blood in his mask, in Winger's mask. And I had to get him up because it was me and him was supposed to be in the ring. And I says, "You okay? You okay? Maybe no okay. Maybe no okay." I says, one more move. I said, one more move, okay? I says, come on. I says, just go to the ropes, tag. And I okay, boss, okay. And I pulled him up. And this is, again, the kind of guy Winger is. He fucking could have laid there and just said, no way. He got up, and I kind of shot him over, but too close to his corner so he could make the tag. And he just fucking rolled out. And that kid's face was smashed after that. I mean, he was out for a long time, and his nose smashed, his cheekbone smashed. I mean, it was, like, really bad. And that was horrible. I mean, the thing with Blade was bad, but I think I actually felt worse for Winger. I mean, not that anything with one was worse than the other, but being there with that kid between
seeing it eye to eye.
Yeah, it was horrible. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. Yamakawa got hurt over there. Wife Beer hit him with the Chokenstein thing off the apron through a table and desked them fucking things, and he wound up hitting the back of his head on the floor. He was out for months. I mean, he said he would never wrestle again. And he did come back finally, but he had major damage. And it's all upsetting when somebody gets hurt. You know me, I'm always fucking... Yeah. That's the worst, man. When it just looks like somebody gets hurt, and you're like, oh, man, you know what I mean?
I think I have many black and blues on my arms over the years, like, oh, God. Dude, can you be a little lighter?
That's a very stressful part of the business, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's bad enough when you're doing your own match, you're out there. But when you're out, you got your guys out there, or your boys, or whatever, and you know, like you're talking about the father figure, some of these, it's like your kids. It's like you're watching your kids out there, and it'd be like watching your kid get hurt. You know what I mean? It's scary. You know, it really is. I mean, there hasn't been many times I ran down to the ringside to say, "Hey, are you okay?" But there's been a few. You know what I mean, over the years for sure, and that's so scary. At the end of the night, it's like, you know, when you go home and nobody gets hurt, and we all get bumps and bruises and stitches and all that, but it's such a relief. And then it's like I couldn't imagine, like I said, we keep it kind of small and tight, ain't a lot of money. We do shows once a month, sometimes twice a month. I couldn't imagine it's being somebody like Vince, where you got shows going on almost every day, you know what I mean, and a chance of somebody getting hurt. The shit they do, I don't know how bad they get hurt, but you know what I mean. If we had to do what we do as much as they do, I don't think I'd be able to. I couldn't take it. I'd have a goddamn heart attack. Yeah. You know?
The TV, I think going into the fall of 2001, we do the build-up for Cage of Death 3. It's going to be the first time you're doing in the Philly. And I mean, I think we really hit a good stride. You know what I mean? Like, we promoted that for, 10, 12 weeks? You know what I mean? Just the whole thing coming to Philly. Going into that night, I don't think any of us realized how many people would be there. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, the fans of CZW, like, I don't know, historians or whatever, you know what I mean, that was the, you know what I mean, the crossroads, that show. What was it like going into that show for you?
Well, going into it was just as frustrating as everything, because I had to deal with the athletic commission going over into Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is deregulated, is what they call it. The wrestling is deregulated. You don't have to be licensed in Jersey or in Pennsylvania anymore to wrestle. And when you hear deregulated, that means there's no rules.
Right.
And then come to find out, because that was like the first show that we did there. That was our big introducing ourselves to the ECW arena, to the hoping to get some of those
quote
fans.
Unquote the world.
The world at that point, And it was tough going in, because all of a sudden they heard we were coming. So now we're getting, contacted by people, saying this is going to happen and that's going to happen, and what are we really going to be allowed to do over there? We didn't know. All of a sudden there's rules. It's like they make up rules just for us. They really do, because there's shit that goes on all over and nobody bothers them, and then we come into town, and what I get is because we're a high profile company. So that's why they do it. But going into it was tough. We didn't know what we were going to do, what we were going to be able to get away with, or whatever. But, we went in anyway. As far as people, how many people I thought was going to be there, I knew it was going to be a big show. I really felt it in my heart. I felt that we had something, and it was our time, and, this is going to be great. Not the people that showed up. I mean, we had to turn people away. There was people begging, "I'll pay whatever, let me in." They were everybody wanted to see, what the fuck is this CZW? What is everybody talking about? Cage of Death. What the fuck is this? What are they going to do? And we did the show, but we really couldn't do everything that we wanted to do. It was toned way down from what we're used to doing. One of the bad things I did, the show was way too long. Like we talked about earlier a little bit, it took way too long to get people in the building because we were so overwhelmed. We didn't have enough staff. We didn't have, we didn't know what was going on. There's fucking people just everywhere. But we did the best that we could. And who else do we have on that show? Do we have anybody else, any outsiders on there or no?
The end.
At the end? Because I know the show was too, it definitely ran too long. Who was that one team with the fucking jumpsuits? It was ridiculous. The New York kids. The ones with red SATs?
The SATs.
Wasn't they out there for like 40 minutes or something? Do you remember?
Yeah.
There was stuff like that, and I think what happened was, and you can't blame them, because what happened, with that crowd, that was the fucking big, that was like WrestleMania to these kids. Right. And nobody wanted to leave the ring. Everybody wanted to suck up as much as they possibly could. And there was I think everybody was just going way too long out there, and that was tough. But we, well, one mistake I made. Another mistake I made. One was that I had too many matches. I think I gave...
You wanted to get everybody on.
I wanted to get everybody on. It was a big show, and I'm always like that. Sometimes, you know, Mike, you come to CZW and there's 35 fucking people in a locker room, and you can do the show with 20.
Right.
And it's just, you know, I don't want to tell anybody no. I really don't. You know?
Especially that night. You know what I mean?
That night I wanted everybody, because everybody, you know me, it's never been just me. I always say it's everybody. It's the group. You know what I mean? It's a whole lot of people to make this happen, and you want all them to get their little sunshine. You know, you want them to get that peace. You know what I mean? But you know, obviously, my opinion for that show that it went too long. I had too many matches on it, and I regret that part. The biggest regret would probably be Todd Gordon. I talked to Todd.
Blue Meanie, Jerry Wolf, Sandman. Yeah. At the end.
We did the thing where they came up through the ring, right? Is that what it was? Sandman came up through the chainsaw?
Yeah, I think.
I think it was something like that. Yeah, that was the biggest mistake of that night. I mean, I thought it would be a good thing. I was contacted by them. I didn't contact them.
Right.
Todd contacted me. He was trying to revitalize himself, these old ECW guys, and you know. And
he was taking care of, like, quote unquote, his boys.
His boys, exactly. Right. Which with me, and you know, anything I ever done with anybody is always supposed to be for us.
Right.
Not just me. And these fuckers, everybody I deal with, it's the other way around. It's always about them. They don't give a fuck about us. And he was looking out for his boys, and he was trying to get them in, and it didn't cost me shit. I don't remember what it was, but it really wasn't shit, because it really was about him just, well, we'll do this angle, and it'll be great, and then we'll lead in, and, you know, things will be good next month. And, you know, I'm thinking, Todd Gordon, you know, he was with ECW, and Paul Heyman, you know, maybe it'll be good. I'll try it, even though I was more about my boys all the time.
Right.
Now we're in the building, you know, and I need something after the Cage of Death.
Right.
I thought it was all good. And then... next thing I know, I get this fucking drunken fucking slob come up from under the fucking ring. Don't even know my fucking wrestlers' names, and he's fucking on the mic, this fucking guy, and all this. And can we talk about this another time? Because I need to talk about this dude, but I don't want to talk about him right now. Is that all right? Can we do it on another?
We'll save it for part 2.
Yeah, because I wish he would have fell.